Good morning. We're in the home stretch.
Good morning.
How is everyone today?
Doing good. How about you?
Good. Good. It's Tuesday.
Good morning.
Good morning. Was that you, Johanna?
It was.
I thought I recognized your voice. Oh, I want like summer weather. Is that wrong?
Nope.
Okay. I feel like sometimes living in New England, like we're supposed to be okay with winter, and I'm really, really not.
You know, I don't mind the cold when there's snow and there's a really
Yeah.
good dry, but when it's all grass and it's just cold, that's
Yeah.
I have a problem with.
Yeah, like it looks like you could take the dog for a walk outside and it would be like bearable. And then you get outside with the dog and you're
Yeah.
like, nope, back in the house.
Yeah.
I got 11 days before I'm in Florida, so
Oh,
Don't rub it in.
yeah, it's Disney.
Oh, no.
I love
Orlando.
Disney.
I don't like Orlando, but we are doing 1 week at the beach, so
Hey, Darren.
Morning. How are you, Aaron?
Good. So I'm going to put us on Facebook at 9 when we get
Okay.
started. And then I'll make you the host. And then that way, because I have a couple other things, like I'll be jumping in and out.
Okay. Yeah.
I think you're doing the chat today, right?
Yeah. Yep. You got
Okay.
it. Yep. And I don't know. I can't remember who's hosting today or who's.
I just checked. I have Deb Hayes
Oh, that's right.
on the
Okay.
list, but I know people have been like switching, so I don't know if that's the most up to date information. So I'm hoping that it is. Yeah, and then, but I think only certain accounts can like bring me the class to Facebook. So I'll just make sure that I'll put it on Facebook and then I'll make you the host.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think as long as you're the host, you have that option on there. It's one under the menu on the bottom there. But
Okay. Did you have it the other day when you were the host last week?
yeah, but I think I thought it was either you or Jen put it on Facebook.
Yeah, I did, but I did
All
it
right.
through the Ignite, like the regional channel. Like I logged in as the region. I couldn't do it from my own Zoom
Okay.
when I was the host on here. I had to log in as the region. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I did that in the beginning, but I think yeah, because I made you host or co-host or whatever, and they
Yeah.
did it. So yeah, I just logged in as an attendee today, so I don't have that. But
yeah, okay, that's fine. No problem.
how was your birthday?
It was good. I mean, it was a little different than normal, but it was good. I got like my first dose of the vaccine. So
Congratulations. That's
happy
good.
birthday to me. I know. Yeah, so that was kind of like a surprise, and I was happy to be able to do that. Makes me feel less anxious. So I get my second dose in a few weeks. So a couple weeks,
Very
whatever.
nice.
Yeah.
Good for
So yeah.
That's a good birthday.
Yeah. It's not a bad thing, right? Like to be
No,
part of the
okay.
solution for getting out of this situation on my birthday.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
Good morning.
Good morning. There's Deb. I'll make her a host too. All right. So
Hey there, guys, sorry, I think I was in the wrong link.
that's okay. All right. And then, so I'm just going to bring us, I just made you a co-host, Deb, so you can share your screen.
All right, good.
And Darren, I'm going to make co-host. Then I'm going to put us on Facebook. Then I'm going to make him the host, and then you can take it away.
All right, good. Let me just get to my other thing here.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Teamwork makes the dream work is right. I think I have two things going on that, so that's fine. All right, yeah, let's get going. How's everybody doing this morning? Pretty good?
Good.
Excited, ready to
Excellent.
negotiate?
Good.
All right. cool.
Everybody
All right,
must be on mute this morning. That's what it is.
All right. All right, let me find my presentation here and we'll get into it. So, hold on, that didn't go. Here we go. Come on. It's not going to be slow. All right, guys, so Ignite, Spark, elements, number 7, negotiating the deal. That's what we're going to be focused on today, absolutely. Big part of real estate. We spend a lot of time with lead generating and calling people and Facebook ads and so on and so forth. This here, negotiating the deal, is really one of the most important things that we're really going to talk about today. We're going to, kind of break it down into some of the tactics and, figuring out ways to negotiate and some of the common things that we see coming and going. We're going to talk about counter tactics, and we're going to do like we do with everything in Ignite. We're going to prepare, we're going to present, and then we're going to position ourselves. So that's kind of really what we're going to be focused on today, really learning those skill sets. We all have a certain level of, we have a certain level of negotiating skills already, but yeah, negotiating contracts, that's what we're all about. Negotiating is an integral part of this business, and it's a skill that develops over time, and it's something that at the end of the day is really can be very much a unique value proposition for many, many agents. And the ultimate goal is to really get you've worked hard to get a buyer or a seller client, and you want to make sure at the end of the day we're going to put a deal together. And what are the things that we really need to do to make it a deal? Is it one person gets everything and the other person gets nothing? What is the way that we want to see? What is the end? Right? We want it to be a win-win. If it doesn't win in some degree by both parties, it's just not going to be. You will be chasing it the whole time. So let's consider a couple of things here. How can your ability to negotiate affect the outcome of a deal? Does anybody have any thoughts on that? All right, so how can your ability to negotiate affect the outcome of a deal? How about this one? What are some ways that you negotiate in your everyday life? Who negotiates? Who has kids? How do we negotiate? All right, guys, unmute.
Bribery.
Bribery, okay, we'll see if that goes into negotiating in real estate. What do you need sometimes when you're negotiating with your kids?
If you do this, I'll do that.
Okay, a little compromise like
Yeah.
that. What else? What else? do you need?
Patience,
Leverage.
information.
Knowledge, understanding what really is their thing. What is the problem, and what does everybody really want? And what are skills that great negotiators possess?
They know how to listen.
Listen, I cannot say that. You'll never not hear me talk about listening in any training. Listening is such an important, as we know, in life. In real estate, it's absolutely crucial. The more you listen, and we're going to speak to that when we get into some exercises about negotiating with the other agent, and why asking questions is absolutely, almost probably the most important thing that you do with any kind of a deal, whether it's buying a car or buying a home, or again, negotiating with your kids. So that's right up there. So this graph here, for those of you who are, fairly new, just want to kind of get a little sense of the graph. Negotiating is a bargaining process between two or more parties, and we're trying to discover a common ground. So the parties in a real estate transaction tend to be the buyer and the buyer's agent. There's a seller's agent, and that circles around to the seller. The buyer and the seller very rarely, basically never, communicate directly. And why do you think that is?
You don't want them to.
Why not?
And you don't want them to because you don't want them spilling all of each other's information.
Yeah.
And then essentially, there is a worry that they could go behind your back and try and make a deal without the two agents involved.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Right. And that's basically why they hire us. We're the professionals. Sellers and buyers can be extremely emotional. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's a very big, our job as real estate agent is to handle the business end of the deal, and they handle the nervous wreck part of the deal. And that's why you're here, to help. And definitely we don't want them connecting. The highest level of negotiating at the peak is going to be when a buyer agent and a seller agent really work quite well together. And that's where you're going to understand where you need to be in terms of, so we're going to talk a lot about questions and listening. And why are asking questions important when negotiating?
So you understand what's most important to them.
Right. What is the most important thing to them? Why else do we ask questions?
Person who asks the questions controls the conversation too.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Right. And I think that's something that is, as you'll see, will be quite interesting. Yeah, you want to make sure you're asking a lot of questions to discover what are the things we want. What are negotiating things that come up as we're talking about questions and negotiating? I'm not saying this right. So when you're putting together a deal, what are the negotiating issues that we have to worry about?
Time frame. When do they want to move? When do they want to move in? Do they have a house to sell?
Right. What else? There's like 12, 10.
What's included? What's included?
are we talking on the buyer side or the seller side or both?
Oh, really everybody, because it's kind of, it's both. They're often intertwined.
So
So
I
we
mean-
have, what's number one usually? There's usually two things, but what's two main
Price.
categories?
Price of a house and price of your commission.
Yeah, no, we don't talk about our commission. That's already been done.
Yeah.
Right? This is negotiating an offer.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
No, but you're right, Matt, that does come up, but we've already negotiated that. So price on the house. What else?
Time frame.
Timing. Oh, timing is so important right now. What else?
The stuff they want with the house, things they want.
Conveyance. Yeah. What else?
Things that they might really can negotiate.
Like, how do you mean?
Okay, if you give up the I don't know, the TV set. Well, not the TV set, but something meaningful like the lamp that is attached at the ceiling.
So personal property and fixtures.
Yeah, if they do this, you will do that, something like that.
Mhm. All right. So what other, there's more. What other things are important when you're negotiating? What other things come up?
Inspection issues. From the inspection.
Yeah, inspection issues. What else? What does that bring you to?
Appraisals also.
Appraisals,
Closing costs?
closing costs,
Repairs.
repairs. You guys get it. What's something that's really coming up a lot right now? We already touched on it a hair, but what is really coming up right now?
Multiple offers.
Yeah. But what is the issue for a lot of, let's say, sellers right now?
They don't want to buy their house, or they don't want to sell their house until they know they can buy another house. So just on the screen here, I would go with terms of the deal, right? So what
Yep.
contingencies are there?
Mhm.
Like negotiating the terms and conditions of a deal,
Right.
which are obviously all those things play into.
Right. Right now, we are seeing a tremendous amount of that term piece really being the thing. You know, everybody is always focused on price. You know, that's sort of their gut reaction, price. It's always about, you know, but really there's a lot of terms that really need to be negotiated in your ability. Sometimes the price is the price. It is what, you know, I mean, yes, we want to negotiate that as best as we can, but your ability to maneuver your way through the terms can really make or break a deal. And again, your job as the professional real estate agent is to guide your client in the most professional manner and the most business-like manner to get to the end, right? So we have to make sure that we're always keeping that in top of mind. You know, so really that's it. It's two categories, but some of them in different times really outweigh price. Right now, everybody's just paying top dollar, I guess, but that can be negotiated. If you're if the sellers, why would a set what kind of terms would be an issue for a seller? What is the main? You just said it, Matt.
The moving.
Timing.
Yeah, right now, I mean, a lot of sellers, they want to find a house before they sell their house, make sure that they can afford to buy before they sell. So that's one of the big ones, and time is again always of the essence generally, you know. So those are two big things.
Yeah, I think right now, and you guys may agree if you're out in the field already, the problem is the sellers need more time to find what they want. So it's a negotiating piece. And so as a buyer agent, if that's what you happen to be doing right now with your client, if you make a presentation that really is attractive timing wise to a seller, you might win that deal. How do we know? How are we going to know this? How are we going to know what you're showing a property? How do we know when?
Ask.
Yeah. Right.
At the time that we present the offer?
I don't know. What do you guys think? Let's mastermind on that just for a minute.
I think those of us that were on yesterday, they really brought up a good point of making like a nice cover letter to the selling agent, kind of outlining everything that the buyer was able to do. For instance, you know, they're renting, they don't have a house to sell, they're financing, they're all pre-approved, including going through underwriting. So I thought that was a really nice way of kind of not just presenting your monetary offer, but everything that you do have to offer to the agents.
Right. So that's kind of interesting. So as with everything in Ignite, again, we always prepare, right? We want to prepare, then we're going to present our offer, and then we're going to position ourselves. So again, negotiating is a skill that can be learned and perfected with experience, and it doesn't take long. Don't think you have to be in it a long time to really get this down. The best practice for negotiating, bring the buyer and the seller together, is starting off with really good preparation. So my feeling, and we can talk about that, is I think prior to making any offer, you should do as much research as you can. And I think a lot of agents' best practice is to connect with that list agent and find out what they can find out, right? Mm-hmm. So we want to prepare, we want to build confidence with that other agent that we're going to be a great co-broke, right? We're going to ensure them that we're going to have a great transaction. So a lot of list agents, and there may be probably some in the group here, if you have a call from an agent and they're asking very specific questions and really want to make a really good deal or put together a good offer for their client, that's, I think, setting them up as in a good position. And the listing agent can really feed the buyer agents everything to get the best deal for their seller, correct? Does that make sense? So I guess the thing would be is we need to know our goal. Like really, really, what is our goal here? We want to know our clients really, really clearly, right? We always want to be professional, right? We want to have a clear goal of reaching a win-win agreement where buyers and sellers are both satisfied with the outcome. And remind your clients, whoever you're working with it, because sometimes people come from different walks of life and they're negotiating, and their negotiating history, I guess, can be very aggressive, or, you know, so remember that this is people and their homes and their family and their dogs. And we have to make sure that the seller understands that and the buyer understands. It's not about who's getting this. It's about how do we make it work for everybody. And particularly in this market where there's so little inventory and so many buyers, the more we know, the better. So we want to make sure we fully understand our clients. We want to think ahead. And that's something that's a skill that you will learn, and you probably already have a bit of it. Anticipate what the other party might want. Now you've asked the questions, and what are the questions that you want to ask the listing agent? If you're a buyer agent, what do you want to ask the list agent in helping you prepare your offer and getting good negotiation?
The motivation of the seller.
Motivation.
Important to them.
Are there any offers on the table?
That's absolutely other offers. Like you need to figure out where you're going to be positioned. What is their motivation, which is kind of timing? Are there other offers? What else do we want to ask that listing agent very, very specifically when we're writing up our offer? What are some scripts?
What is the time frame that they have?
Yeah.
Very specific about what's included and not included when it comes to things like appliances, fixtures, that kind of stuff, so that there's not arguments over small items.
And how do we make sure of that?
Make sure it's in the offer.
Yes.
And how do we make sure of that? You're going to write down every appliance and everything on your offer, or how do you guys do it?
I think it should, if anything was not, shouldn't it be in the listing?
Yes. What is offered? See, and a good tip is what, as we know, we're part of our Kelly Blue Book here is the MLS system. And that's what's included in this house, what's included and what is excluded. And we're going to talk a lot about that kind of stuff. Typically, we have our main things: washer, dryer, stoves are out, or fixtures. It's health code. There has to be a stove. So basically you want to go by what is on the MLS. A lot of people simply write per MLS number 7205, whatever that is, and include the listing. That way there's no question, right? What other things do we want to ask? Motivation. Are there any other offers? What's included? Timing?
I think that I would ask if the sellers had a recent inspection and would they make it available to the buyer?
What do you guys think about that?
It's good, but it's always good to have your own.
Yeah, I think you need your own inspection.
Yep. Yeah, that can be funny because you just don't know the quality of the previous inspector. Not quality, and you don't know the level of scrutiny that inspector had done, and you don't know the level of interest the buyer had in the property. Generally speaking, I don't see a lot of that, people giving a home inspection. I don't know.
I think it's good if people are there when the inspection is going on.
What, you mean the buyer?
Buyer or in the agent too.
Yeah, absolutely, positively, the buyer is required to be there, if at all, unless they're out of state. They're paying for this home inspection. They're supposed to be there for sure. So, okay, so we're making a call.
Could I just mention something? When you mention about the MLS and to put the MLS number, so everything that is in the MLS, my advice is to everyone to print the MLS, because sometimes agents tends to change things after, and then they disappear, like the commission is less, like there was a fridge and now it's not there anymore. So if you print it before you go on the showing, you have everything in with that proven print that was there.
That's a good point. And yes, whatever the listing agent has in MLS is what you're presenting to your buyer for sure. So we want to make sure that what you're presenting is what you're reading, and that's exactly attached to the offer. And let's talk a little bit. So anyways, we're going to prepare. So we get the information from the seller. We're as informed as we can. We're going to make sure we're acting as a professional, and we're going to prepare to present our offers. We're going to obey the laws, and we're going to know the documents inside and out. Would you guys say you know your documents inside and out?
No.
No. Well, let's make sure your market center is, how about get your documents and read them? Everybody, oh, we got to wait for a class. Get your contract to purchase and your purchase and sales, or whatever it is, whatever state you're in. Let's make sure we understand. Because if you're sitting next to somebody at their kitchen table or on Zoom or however you're handling this offer, you better know they're going to ask questions, and you want to make sure that you have a full understanding of what you're doing, so they feel very confident that they know what you're doing, and it's going to work. So that it's not a heavy task. That's something that everybody should do, and make sure that they understand their documentation. So we're going to really get the points that we want to negotiate on. We're going to pull some insight from the list agent and determine if our client has any leverage. We're going to set our clear expectations. We're going to know the goal. We're going to shoot for a win-win. So there's a couple of things that you can do in negotiation piece. Let me see if we want to, yeah. Again, we're going to keep talking a little bit about questions, and in the preparation, this is just a list of more that you might want to talk about. What addition, sometimes just even that question, we have two kinds of questions. You have sort of open-ended questions and then very closed yes, no kind of answers. What do you think is more effective?
Open-ended.
Mm-hmm. Why is that?
Because it's going to lead to more conversation, right? If you're asking a closed question that's just yes or no, it's going to be yes, no, and it's not going to lead you down any rabbit holes that might lead you to more viable information.
And again, why do we want to know more?
The more we know, the better we are.
And what did you say before, Darren?
That the more we know, the better we are.
Right.
Because then we have sort of like the weapon.
Yeah, information power.
The person asking the questions controls the conversation.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's exactly right. And this is what we want to do. You want to sort of take command a little bit. And, sometimes there certainly are, yes or no questions, but to Matt's point, you must continue with follow-up. So we want to make sure we have 100% full confidence in what we're doing. And, what's important about closing in 30 days and why, and why, you can ask why several times, and then you really get to where you want to go, and that's really important. And then sometimes they have a concern that really isn't as important as they think it is. And it certainly might open up something that maybe they haven't thought about it. So I think, anybody want to do a little role play? We're going to write up an offer. Who wants to be a listing agent? I'm going to ask some questions. Or do you want to be the other way around? Want to do that for a minute?
I will.
Pardon me?
I will.
All right, good. So let's do a quick thing. Let's ask some questions. So Vilma, I'm the listing agent. You are showing my listing and your people really love it. You're going to call me up and what are you going to say? So we'll just do ring, ring.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Debbie.
Debbie. Good afternoon, Debbie. This is Vilma. First of all, thank you for the showing yesterday.
Oh, you're welcome.
My buyers really love it, and we want to put something together. But before I send the offer, I really would like to know where your sellers are at, and really love to know about the time frame, because my buyers, they need to move, but they will have to move over somebody else with the family if in case that this doesn't close soon enough.
Well, my folks really need time. They haven't figured out where they want to go yet. We're just not sure what we're doing. So we need some time. And of course, they want top dollar.
Okay, all right. And when you say they want to move, they still need time. How much time is there? How is that time?
I don't know. I did put in the listing that they have not, that they are looking for a good solid 3 months. So in my disclosure, I put that in there. So that's what they're looking for. So if that would help, they just need some time.
Okay, so 3 months is not too bad for my buyers, and they really love the property. And we was going to put a full offer, but I'm sorry. Oops, I don't know what I did. Okay,
That's okay.
hopefully
That's okay.
I something else came out, and so I canceled and everything went off. But okay, so now let me see. I think we can work that out. The parents can take them in while we close, but what I'm worried is really is going to be 3 months, or it's going to be extended after.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Well, that'll be up for negotiation, I suppose.
Okay.
They just want some time.
Okay, so I will tell them that they have to put all the stuff in storage and to keep the minimum, but at least they will know ahead of time. Okay, that's
All
one
right.
thing. They need closing costs. How's that possible? Is going to be possible? They're going to put it a full offer.
I don't know, Vilma. What I would say, put everything in writing and send it on over. So I'm acting like a listing agent now. I'm going to shut her off a little bit, right?
Yes,
because
I understand that. Okay,
Yeah.
but I would like to know if they are willing. That's all I need to know.
Right. And as a list agent, that agent is going to say, I can't make that decision. The seller can only make that decision until I present all offers. We'll have to just.
I really understand you, Debbie. But the problem is, the only thing that I need to know is if they already are aware of it and that you have talked to them about this before. That's all.
Yes, I would have spoken to them in my consultation that often buyers in this particular price point often do need closing cost. So I would have done that as a listing agent. So
okay, so as long as I present a full offer, maybe a little higher, and I put the closing costs in there, because some people I know, some sellers that really said, no way, nobody helped me. Why should I help others?
Right.
Because it has happened to me before. But as long as you already have spoken to them and they are aware, I have a little hope there that it will be. All right.
There you go.
Now,
So what I'd like to just stop the role play for a minute. How do you think that went, Vilma?
I think it went very well because you opposed to me, and I think I went over and really asked you why.
Right. What I would suggest, and I don't know, what does everybody else have? Anybody have any good feedback for us?
I do. I would have kept the whole closing, like the closing costs out of it, and actually also asking about mentioning that she was gonna probably go with a little bit higher of an offer. I mean, that's something that I feel like you shouldn't have been telling the seller
Yeah,
agent,
maybe,
because then you're giving the seller a chance of saying, no, like, we want more money.
right. That's a very good point. Anybody else have any comments?
I have a comment, Debbie.
Yeah.
She never got the time frame. So how does that work?
Well, this is the problem. My thing is, as the listing agent, apparently I put in MLS that the seller is looking for 3 months. So that's gonna set up buyers kind of that will, the only ones that are gonna make offers are the ones that can wait 3 months. So if you have a buyer that has to move in a month, this house may not be the one for you. But that's part of what you're gonna do in gaining information and helping your client, your buyer. You might have to say, look at guys, you may have to wait 3 months. If you want a house these days, the spirit or the pattern, the situation right now with this market is sellers are really requesting time. They may not take 3 months, but they are asking right up front, give us 3 months. What does everybody think about that?
So we already knew that, correct? We should already knew that if we
Yes.
did the MLS.
Right, technically, if the listing agent put it in there, yes, it should be there, and you should already know that and have that discussion. And it doesn't sound like from that listing agent that was the deal. They want 3 months.
Right, right.
So again, every single solitary homeowner, seller, agent is different. They all have their personal needs, and this is why we have these conversations, because now you have to go back and say to your client, this person needs time. And then as you structure your offer, you can write that in there. And then it even goes into a deeper negotiation. What happens if all of a sudden in 2 weeks, the people find the house they want? So how would that scenario work?
I thought it was great that she did ask about the time. I mean, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm totally new. I've never had these conversations, but just in case something might have changed from the time that the timing was posted on the MLS. So I thought it was fun. I was looking for the why is it important about, in terms of closing in the 3 months, what is it, what's special about 3 months? Is it that you're, I don't know. I thought that was what I was looking for.
I think the list agent said that the person hasn't found a house.
Right. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I missed that. Okay.
And that is usually the problem nowadays. Sometimes there is a delay like that for some work transfer or something like that. But nowadays, would anybody have any comment on that? That nowadays that is a key. That's a super duper key problem with sellers.
Oh, it's a huge problem, and they need, I have a client right now, we're starting to enter month number 2 looking for a property. And we were fortunate enough to find buyers who are renting and flexible, but the one thing that is coming into play is their rate lock. So they're very conscious of their rate lock, and if we go past, their deadline, what are those costs to the buyer? And how are we going to negotiate handling the rate lock penalties?
Mm-hmm. And when would you put that negotiating? So I like that, Kendra. You're thinking ahead. You're going, okay, we're cool. We're going to give these people 3 months. How is that going to affect our buyer? How much is it going to cost to extend the rate lock? Or do you go to a new rate? Maybe it's better.
Yeah, well, and that's what I asked them. I asked them to get what the penalty would be, so we kind of knew what number we were batting around, since every lender is different. Yeah. And, the total that they came back with was only a little over 500. So the buyers and sellers decided to split it. We negotiated splitting it if we need more time.
Interesting. That's a good win-win, right? Can the seller say, nope, not going to do anything. I want everything.
Absolutely.
And can the buyers go, okay?
Absolutely.
Right, so this is your setting up your really early expectations. This is the market that you're in. And sometimes you may have to say to a client, this may not be the market for you. If you're just not, has anybody used that ever lately? Yeah, Darren. I had one of the people in my group, she had that conversation with her client. She said, this might just not be the market for you. It's not fun as a buyer. Right now, you're getting pushed around and pushed around and pushed around. Might not just be. And it was a very interesting response that she got back from that buyer. What do you think the buyer did, guys? What did they think?
They had to compromise. They yielded a little bit in what they were willing to compromise on.
Any other thoughts?
They probably thought that the agent was crazy.
What was that?
They probably thought that the agent was crazy due to how fast the market is going. Like they probably were like, oh, she's out of her mind if I'm gonna change of buying a property now.
Right, and it's a good tell too, when you have that kind of conversation with a buyer. And what happened with this particular couple, they just said, oh, I guess we have to either be in or get out. And they're in. They just needed to hear that a little bit, and they are going to have to compromise, and they're going to have to adjust a little bit. But at the end of the day, they're going to get the house that they want. They're probably just not going to work in the time. They have to be a little bit more flexible. No way. I don't care who, even nobody gets everything they want. So I think using some of these scripts and learning some of these words will clearly help you as you move forward with your deals. Remember, it's never black and white. It always sways. Yes, you see some patterns all the time for the most part, but every person is different and every deal is different. And the more you communicate with that listing agent and you work together, it's funny, Kendra, because Kendra and I kind of did a deal with her, not really, but sort of. And it was really interesting to work with an agent who was very, very clear with what her seller was looking for. And I could tell right from the beginning that it would be a good deal because I could tell she had her act together. She was very clear, very honest, got right back to me. You know, and I had some buyers that were a little very nervous kind of people. So it worked out well.
Abby, can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
The sellers, they didn't want to move out till the 3 months, correct? Would you put that in the contract?
Yeah.
I'm kind of trying to understand it. Will that be a contingency?
So what you would do, I mean, and again, you'd want to speak to your, the seller and the buyer's attorneys might want to work together with some language, but basically you would make the closing 3 months out. And you'd have to have some language in there specific to if there's a rate lock question, you as the buyer agent needs to think ahead. What's going to happen? And you might want to have the discussion, what happens if they find a house in 2 weeks? Are they going to want to close in 30 days? So there's several layers of this. So depending on how you negotiate it, you have to, I would think the selling agent, the listing agent's going to want the option to close earlier. They're going to ask for 3 months, but they're going to ask for it earlier. And then the buyer agent is going to give, the buyer is going to give the 3 months, but they probably should have the option, if you guys can close, we want to close it earlier.
Okay.
So who else is going to get involved in this discussion potentially?
I would like to know your opinion, how it went.
What do you mean?
How did
I thought you did well. I thought you really wanted to know. I do think one of the other agents said, you don't want to give your terms and your price yet. Don't start the negotiation before you've written up the offer. You're on a fact-finding call, and you're trying to establish rapport with that listing agent. And you want to make sure that that agent knows that you're doing the best that you can to provide an offer to the list agent that's going to be the best for her seller. And a list agent could really work the whole system and get the best deal she can for her client, which is what he or she is trying to do. So yeah, I would just be a little cautious about remember, you want to ask more questions than say what you're doing.
Okay.
And now, because that's really when you get the information. You don't need to tell everything. I mean, you can chat a little bit about it, but I wouldn't get into anything too deep.
Okay, thank you.
And I know
Can you talk a little
yesterday-
bit about the question about any other offers?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so basically when, you have like 2 or 3 things that you're going to ask. First of all, introduce yourself. Typically, I would say, like Vilma said, hey, I thank you for letting me show your property today. My clients really like it. We're going to be putting together something. Can you tell me a little bit? First of all, do you have multiple offers? That's basically my line. Do you have multiple offers at this time? And they'll say, yep, I've got 10 or I've got 3 and I expect 5 more by Tuesday. And then I would say, okay, tell me a little bit about what your seller is really, really looking for. How can I craft this to be the best for them? What is the main thing that I could do? If my buyers can accommodate, how can I do it? And then you just basically listen to what they say. But yeah, does that answer that question, Peter, regarding that question of multiple offers?
Well, I guess it also raises the question of how the quality of disclosure the listing agent says. I mean, an offer means an offer as opposed to indications of interest. So the question is quite specific because it's saying offers, which means something written down and offered, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes, when you ask a listing agent, do you have offers on the table at this time? Typically that means, have you received written offers?
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll answer, oh, I've got a million calls and I expect some coming in, but in this, I don't know that I've ever seen a listing that didn't have multiple offers in the last 6 months. So, and this is the other thing too, in your market center and in your internal relationships within your office and the different things that you're doing, you're hearing what you're hearing it. So that probably in fact, unless the house is really unusual or priced really oddly, or typically you're going to be looking at multiple offers. Would everybody agree with that?
I had one missing a roof that got 32 offers.
What do you mean? There was no roof on the house?
The roof was collapsed. It was a 3-family that had been sitting vacant for almost 3 years with a collapsed roof. And there was literally a forest growing on the 3rd floor.
Wow.
And it sold for 40 over.
Oh my goodness.
Right. So again, this market is not for everyone. And not everybody's going to buy a house with no roof. So I'm assuming it was a lot of contractors.
Yes.
We call it
That's
open concept.
Yes, right. Skylights over and above. So yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff. I mean, every house, there's more houses that aren't nice than are nice, by the way, guys, sometimes depending on your price point, where you're looking. So that's okay. There is a property for everybody. So no problem. So where are we? I lost where I am. Okay, so we're doing a lot of preparation, which, like anything, whether it's a listing, a sale, home, anything in life, the more you prepare, the more likely it's going to be a great outcome. So we kind of went through that whole deal a little bit. And we talked a lot about negotiating things, and I'd like to maybe move into a little bit of more of that. Let me keep going. Where are we here? We have a little scenario. Does anybody want to go through that? All right, so know your goal. Hold on, guys. Hang tight. All right, so do you guys have your participant guide with you? How does it work as a student here? Do some people have it and some don't?
It's posted in the chat, so everyone should have access to it. Some
Oh.
people might have printed it out beforehand. Some people might have it on their screens.
I'll upload
Yeah,
it again
during
for you,
the-
Deb, that way, because if somebody's left the chat or just came in, they might not have access
Right,
to it.
right,
I'll
right.
upload it
So
again.
what we're kind of doing here was going through a little scenario and how we might want to handle it, right? So we want to prepare our offer now. So you talked a lot about that, making and receiving offers. Somebody was commenting that there was, who made the comment about how you send your offer in? I don't know, maybe it was something else. But anyways, we want to start thinking about how we want to handle this deal, and let's do a little brainstorming. So on page 9, I want to kind of go over the scenario. So we're going to have a discussion about how we want to handle this. Hold on. Okay, wait a minute. This particular class, I think, is a little hard because you can't do, all right. All right, cool. So we are representing a single buyer. The client has been renting her property. She's just a renter. Like any first-time home buyer, she's looking for you to guide her through the process. The asking price for the home she really loves is $175,000. We'll see how realistic this scenario is. So she's looking for a house and she loves it. It's $175,000. The house appears to have evidence of a roof leak. It's listed as is, and we can talk about that, and is correctly priced. Okay, the listing agent has it, like, we're going to price it at $175,000. Your client would like to keep her payments low because she has student loans. She wants to write an offer for $155,000, and there's been a lot of activity on that property. What do we do? We're going to be having a conversation with our buyer now. We're going to get ready we're preparing to write up this offer. What are 4 or 5 things we have to ask? What do we talk about with our buyer?
Deb?
Yeah?
I think. Mary?
Hello?
Oh, hi, it's Mary. I would think to show the buyer the comps and talk about this very active market and where the house is correctly priced, that to go in under asking probably would not be to her advantage. And then I think to reinforce, certainly remind her that I'm not a lender, but to reinforce that with current interest rates, and especially if it were a fixed rate for 30 years, it could be well worth the extra $20,000 or $25,000 that she might offer.
Right. That seems to be the discussion we're having with a lot of buyers right now. And this is, do you guys do, and have you done at all in the class anywhere of putting together quick CMA on properties when you're working with a buyer?
Yes.
Yep.
Not in the class, but outside of it, yes.
Yeah, just in general, let's have a little handle on how much this house is worth. And so we have to have that discussion with this buyer. So Mary, right, I'm not a lender, but we need to, would you say it's not going to be accepted? How would you handle it? Anybody?
I would say, since you're looking to go in below asking, you're going to have to think about other ways that will make your offer more attractive to the seller.
Very good point. Very good point.
Contingencies, for example.
How would, and that goes back to how would we know? Maybe one, sellers have their thoughts too, and they have their needs. Is this that seller that needs 3 months? I wonder, So again, back to that call, if they say, oh, I've got multiple offers and they want 3 months, not everybody's going to do 3 months. Should a buyer get a little deal if they're going to wait 3 months?
Maybe.
They should. Will they? I don't know, but unfortunately. But again, and remember, this is a national, it's a different market right at this minute in time. So anyways, we always want to just make sure that we're, that we're doing what we need to do to get to where we want to be. So any questions so far?
I have a question. This is Rhonda.
Yeah.
A quick question on this scenario. So let's say this buyer is early in the process and that really isn't yet believing us that we're actually saying that this house is worth $175,000. It is going to take money to fix it up. And so they insist and say, but I just want to put it in. And we're new agents and we're working with another agent and we actually know this isn't a good idea. Tell me a little bit about how, because it's also about our reputation with other agents that we know what the heck we're doing. So tell me how you position yourself or what you would do in this case when you're working with the other agent, because you want to be professional. We are representing the buyer, but there's a little bit of an ethical dilemma in me about why am I doing it? Like, just talk through a little bit, because I'm sure this is something that comes up. that a buyer's asking you to do something that's not very realistic or doesn't feel realistic.
Well, that's part of, well, what does everybody think? How do we handle this buyer? What do we do?
I think that comes down to your ability to negotiate and reason with them, right? You have to let them know, like, hey, is it realistic to make an offer that's $20,000 under asking in a market that is moving this quickly on a house that already seems to have a lot of interest? Do you really want to, do you think you're gonna, what are you gonna do that makes you think you're gonna stand out and get this home? Like, if you want to present that offer, that's the offer I'll present. It's ultimately your decision, but you have to be able to not sway them, but make them understand, like, if you want to compete, you have to make sure that you're able to do so. And going back to that scenario, a question I would ask is, what are you really comfortable spending? If this house is cost 175 and you just want to put an offer at 155, is that because you feel, what are you qualified to spend? What are you comfortable? You said she had student loan debt. You know, what do you really want to spend? Should we be looking at houses that are
150,
140 because you're comfortable going up to 150? What, like, where are we? So I know that kind of went off track there, Rhonda, on you, but
Well, no, and it sort of almost slides back to that original buyer consultation.
Yep.
You know, really what's their comfort level, but what else, what other comments would people have on this particular scenario? Because this does come up. What do we do?
I would say, hi, I'm Sarah. I would say, how badly do you want this home, and how are you going to feel if you don't get it?
Motivation, right?
I'd ask them how they're going to replace. Do they have the funds available or a plan to get the funds available to replace the roof in the next, few coming years, since it's already showing signs of age and leaking?
Right. Do we write up that offer for 155?
if it comes down to that's what they want, if the buyer says, yeah, that's what I'm stirring at, here's my offer, this is what if you can't sway them in any direction and they decide they really want to put an offer in at 155, you put in that offer for your client because that's what they've asked you to do. But again, you would hopefully be able to reason with them to be like, be realistic. If you get a no, set their expectations. Don't, you can't be that upset if we turn around and get a refusal of an offer or a pretty,
don't be mad at me,
or a pretty crazy counter offer, right? If they all of a sudden are like, yeah, we're not gonna, here's a crazy counter offer. That's what you get for lowballing us so much.
So what typically do you get for, when you present an offer, what do you get back? Three things. You either get an acceptance, you get a rejection, or what's the third thing?
The counter offer.
Final and best.
Right. You don't know, though, we don't know the extent of this house. Maybe all the other offers are 155. I mean, probably not in this world right now, but you just never know. And as the buyer gets moving forward and they make their offer, even though it's low, they may get a counter that says, hey, thanks for that 155 offer, but our counter is 175. A good listing agent is going to not do that whole, I'm mad at you, you're low. They're just going to come back with the good counter, what they want. They're just going to come back. So that buyer, over that little period of time, may come to terms with what they really need to pay for that house. And again, go ahead.
Deborah?
Yeah.
Donna from Boston.
Yeah.
Going back to the conversation with the buyer that wants to make the lowball offer. Asking the questions as to why that's important, I get that, but wouldn't you, as you're supposed to be the expert guiding them, just be upfront and honest with them and say, the house is worth 175.
Well, you're going to do a CMA.
Yeah.
And you're going to say, this is where they've come up with that price of 175. I understand the roof may have had some leaking. I mean, you can only do, you be honest and candid and show them, and they have to do what they have to do. And to Matt's point, if their comfort level is really on the 150 price, Maybe they should be looking at things in the 140s, you know? And that's another discussion, that whole, as a backup to that other one of maybe this isn't the right market for you to be in.
Well,
Maybe this isn't the price point we should be looking at.
right. Deborah, could you also, as their guide, tell them that the seller might be offended by the offer?
What do you guys think?
I would say no.
I've said before in the past, if it's just something that I feel is, sometimes my buyers need to lose a couple to understand the feel of the market. If they want to go in super low, I write the offer, I turn around and look at them and say, we don't want to tick them off or offend them. We want to create a conversation. We need to find the number. If you don't want to go in at full list, we need to find the number that's going to create a conversation. And then we can go from there. But be prepared if you insist on going in, you know, whatever that number is, 15, 20, 30, 40K under, they may just tell us to go pound sand. Because they're going to wait for somebody who seems more reasonable and willing to negotiate.
No, yeah, well, that was kind of my point, I guess, like, you know, you don't want to insult, because then the chances of getting even a conversation could be very low.
Right.
But we don't know the sellers, so how do we know what is offensive? I think that's a dangerous zone, and I agree with whoever, sorry, I didn't catch who said it. There are just times that you are going to write multiple offers on multiple properties before these people get it. And, you know, the amount of time that it takes to write an offer, especially for those in Mass, it's a little bit different up north. We have more pages of step one, but you have to decide for yourself whether these people are likely to come around and understand what's happening out there. And maybe it takes a few offers to get there.
That's exactly it. That does happen. There is a learning curve sometimes with buyers. If they're not in the trenches and on the ground, they may not really realize that this is the market that they're in. But obviously we have our buyer consultation, and we're going to try to educate them. But sometimes they're just so excited, and, you know, and they read a lot of things, and they have a lot of feedback from family, and, oh, you have to go in 20,000 lower, and you know what I mean? So just the other thing that is a good way to respond to that, in your experience, you can certainly say, in order to get a good faith counter, you really have to come in with a really good faith offer. You know, this offers a little bit lower than what we feel the market value is, but certainly we can put something together. I would never, you know, remember, we always want to keep it going forward. We never want to shut anybody down, right?
That's what I'm gonna do. Is put it in these and then bring it to school. Put it in Ziplocs and stay fresh. Yeah, I was going to. Good idea.
Somebody's. All right. So anyway, so let's, you know, we've done all that preparing, we presented. So now we're going to present some offers. Let's really get it, you know, let's do some stuff here. So we're going to present the offer, and what are some good best practices on presenting the offer? Sounds like you talked a little bit about it yesterday. Did you get some very specific tips on, you know, how to put it all together, and what are the best practices there?
Yes, you know, writing a nice cover letter that, you know, basically makes it so that you're going to be a good co-broke with and work easily with the listing agent.
Yeah. Did we have any discussions about those letters with the people and their wonderful little family? Did you talk about that yesterday?
Yes.
About sending letter from buyer to seller so we talked about how sending a letter as a buyer to a seller personally is probably not a great idea anymore because of the FHA laws.
Yes, fair housing. Yep.
And how writing a letter to the broker's agent about how qualified you are as a buyer, you know, and on the business side of things, how you look like, hey, I'm a ready, willing, flexible buyer. If we have to wait 3 months, then we're flexible to do that. You know, we're very well qualified. You know, we have great, like stuff like that.
Right. Let me just back up a little bit. I just want to make sure I'm up on the same teaching thing. Are they recommending at this point that not to write those letters about themselves and their dog and their two
Yes,
kids?
yeah. We talked about how we don't really do that anymore because of fair housing laws. Like it's something that they don't recommend now.
Right.
Up until because I asked that question yesterday, because when I bought my house in 2019, we wrote a letter to the seller saying like, hey, we're so excited to like, you know, see our future here and da 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 da.
Right.
And I was
But
like, how?
obviously, it's a little bit of potential. There's some very, very high level potential discrimination going on with those things.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
I asked how recent of a trend that was to stop doing that, because I said when we put our offer in 2019, that's something we did personally.
Yeah,
So.
Yeah, Tim, you're on here, right? What is your market center's position on that? Just so that I have you here still? Yeah, I
Yep.
think go ahead.
Yeah, I think insofar as writing the letter, it used to be, pulling the heartstrings, writing the letter, talking about your family. And I know something that was infamous before was, well, I should say is now infamous, is sending the photo of the family. In doing that, you can start to press your advantage insofar as the diversity of your family in the picture. And that starts to cross a line that we don't want to go down anymore. So, you'll hear me all the time not even use the word family. I refer to, I'll say, when I'm talking to Sue Doyle, I'm talking to Sue and her loved ones, right? Like, because just to not even go down that road. The question to ask is, will anybody else be moving with you? And then you allow the client to fill in the blanks. The letter from the buyer to the seller at our market center, we've advised people that we're careful in how we write them, and it's not really a practice. I think right now, the letter, it can be something that might be advantageous. At the same time, there's so many laws right now, and as we know, because we're teaching this class across all of New England, if you haven't been in your fair housing class, you're late. Take that class so we understand, because they are looking for offenses at the market center level, at the brokerage level, and from agent to agent. So I think it's such a ticky-tack thing to get into now, because the mindset behind them has changed and the rules are following that. If somebody were to come to me, I would look for other ways that we can be competitive before the letter. I think that's probably the best leg up right now. Is there's probably some other things we can do monetarily, or do, you'll always hear me say, I think most of my agents know I have a strong dislike. I won't use the word hate. It's too early in the week. I have a strong dislike for the term highest and best, because too many agents are tying those words together, assuming that highest is best.
Highest
and cleanest, right? I want my agent to make the offer. I want my client to make the offer that they feel deems the amount of value that they impress upon this home is X. Never mind what they were, approved to spend, or what their debt to income ratio, or what they truly want to spend. What do you truly feel the value of this home is? If you miss out by $1, will you sleep tomorrow? And then above and beyond that, cleanest is the least amount of contingencies.
Yeah.
Right. And and we talked about this morning on our market center huddle about, asking for certain things that will at least draw clarity in and around things you're looking for to move into the home. Above and beyond that, do you add those things? Because those could be deemed as a huge thorn. Sue Doyle just said, like, we have to get out of the mindset that we understand how the seller is thinking. We find all these things out by asking the representation of the seller to the best of their ability. What are they thinking? Right. So I'm not a huge fan. With Susan Kenyon yesterday talking about the love letter from between agents. If you don't know them, hey, I'm looking forward to working together. That could also be, sent along with the bullet points of the welcome to the deal letter. But I think writing the letter that's going to pull the heartstrings might be too much. And again, this is going to be perceived differently. Because you could send one to a seller, a list agent that doesn't think there's any lines being crossed, but then it gets on the wrong desk and somebody's like, oh, this is actually, according to bullet point 75 on the new fair housing laws, you actually did break a rule that, to Matty Howard's point, he used the very same letter, to impress his sellers before. To probably win the home.
Got the deal. And I think it can be and I have heard, and I just can't even believe it, I have heard people say, my seller picked this family because they were like, whatever. And I'm like, what do you, I was really kind of shocked by it. Our job is to act as a professional, not the emotional piece. Okay. This is the best price, the best terms, timing, so on and so forth. Because this family and those people, that's all really rolling right into, discrimination. So we just want to be very, very careful about that. I won't go too deep, but
Yeah. Well, and
just-
to your point too, even having a conversation a year, 2 years after the fact. Oh yeah, we ended up picking that family way back when because of X, Y, or Z. I mean, we've had some incidents up here on the Seacoast where it was discussed at a certain point in time that they ultimately chose that family because of their military service. And that's just, obviously if everybody making an offer has a VA loan, well, the kimono is open. We now know that everybody has some military service tied to the deal. At the same time, we can't talk about, you should never talk about your clients. I don't care if you worked with them during the Bronze Age, you sold them a cave. Never talk about your past clients in that regard. Like that.
And that's with all things real estate, from point A to point, beyond point Z, it's always going to be based on talking about the house and not the people, no matter what the topic is.
Yep.
You start talking about the people, that's when the duct tape needs to come out.
Yeah.
House.
Right.
Perfect.
You're going to slip up and you're going to get nailed if you start talking about the people.
And it's just a good habit, particularly if you're newer in the industry, to get into the language and that muscle memory of calling people your clients, not, Matt and Kathy, don't get personalized about, oh, I just spoke to Jimmy and, no. You always want to refer to your clients as your clients. So we're going to learn here a little bit. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, just in Connecticut, I know the boards have strongly recommended against that just because of that impact. So for those people that are in Connecticut, and it still happens, but there's nothing they can do, but they have strongly recommended against that. They've been doing that for at least the last 3 or 4 months.
Against what?
Against the letters.
Yeah.
So.
Well, in Mass, if the buyer wants to include it, I think we have to. Actually, we have a little follow-up on that one because clients, that's, you're supposed to do that. But I do think it's tricky. And as a list agent, I never liked getting them because I did think the sellers couldn't help it. They would make decisions based on it. And I just didn't like it. So we're going to
influence.
Pardon me?
The undue influence, what it comes down to.
Yeah. In a lot, I've seen letters with the wrong address on it. Oh, we love your house with a big backyard, and the people have no backyard. It's just a canned letter they're sending to people and just changing some of the paragraphs. So hopefully that will move forward, So now we're going to learn. We're going to present the offer. And we talked a little bit about that yesterday, you guys. So we're going to present the offer, and we have our, way that we want to do it. Very first of all, we're going to pay attention to verbal and nonverbal cues. We're going to talk about the offer. We're going to listen. We're going to stay calm. We're going to focus on customer needs and give your offer the best chance, right? So everybody has their systems, okay? The best thing, obviously, to do is to call. I mean, a lot of people send the texts and the email. I think it's nice to have an email. Hey, attached, please find the offer, however you want to do it. And then I think it's nice to have some bullets. Here's the price, here's when they want to close, and a little bit of information. I and the other agents in here can say what they like to do. I think it's very important to call and say, hey, just want to let you know, I did send over that offer. And you present your offer that way as well. What does everybody think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good to always get that direct communication, right? That you have that response, like not only, hey, I sent you that email with our offer in it. I just want to verify that you received
Confirm.
it. Yeah. Confirm. Yep. Confirm on our end that you received it. And like it may be a few hours before they get a chance to look at it, but you just want to make sure that that what you sent was received.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, list agents are busy running around and you want to just confirm that they received the offer. That you can do via text kind of, but I'm a big proponent of having conversation with the list agent and letting them know that they're, you know, and you tell them the timelines and a little bit of an overview, and hopefully that's going to work, you know? And what else do we want to know when we present the offer? What other exercise do you want to do a little bit here?
You want to
When
know
is-
when they're making the decision on offers?
Okay, timeline for decision, right? What else?
If any other offers were received.
Yeah, you can always get that one back in again. Do you ask how many they have?
Yeah, you can ask how many offers there were.
Yeah. Do you ask what the price is?
I
What do they-
don't, they're not gonna tell you, they're not gonna tell you, you can, I think you can ask, but I don't think they're gonna tell you if like, I mean, as far as the offer, like what the offer was,
Mhm. Yeah, what are you getting for offers?
yeah, they're not gonna tell you what, price point. They're not gonna be like, yeah, the house is, the highest offer we have is at 297,000. Like, they're not gonna tell you that.
I think you can try to gauge if they have a cash offer or multiple over asking, or, you know, kind of what they're expecting at least.
Yeah. Well, you can ask. We'll see what, you know, you never know. I've seen it. I've seen people say, yes, I have 5 over asking, or I have 1 at this price. I've had people do it all different ways, you know? So, you know, again, we like to ask questions. You never know what you hear. So,
What
you know,
if the listing agent lied? He doesn't have any offers and he thought more, oh, already I have 3 or 4.
well, we always assume that we're working with professionals and they're at a high level of integrity, which most agents are. I would just assume if they say they have multiple offers, then they have multiple offers. And your buyer is going to present their offer at highest and cleanest that they're going to, right? In this market. And I always assume if they say, because I don't know, I guess people could lie, but I don't know it. I think I don't see that like I used to way back in the day. It was a little bit like that, but the level of professionalism right now in the market, and we just know because every buyer agent we know in our office is in multiple offers with every deal they do. So it's highly likely that it's a multiple offer situation.
I think too, to keep yourself, you know, ask the questions, do you have others? And when is your deadline? And, you know, all of that is great. But I would work really hard to keep it at that, because if that listing agent, granted seller's decision, but if that listing agent starts seeing you as the pain in the ass who's asking questions that, you know, they can't answer, although they might, that could put a little dent in the desire to work with you overall. We don't know what the listing agents are saying to the sellers when the offers are being presented. I'd ask the basics, be friendly, and keep it short, sweet, looking forward to working with you, and not dig too hard on the stuff that we know they're not going to tell us.
Right. Any other comments on that?
I just have a question
Deb, may I-
because that second bullet was keep quiet once you make the offer. And what I'm confused about is that if I'm the listing agent and I just got the offer, I really don't have much to say because I haven't spoken to my client. So what are you
Right.
expecting to happen in that quiet space?
Well, what I think the point of that is when you present your offer, this is as the buyer agent, when you present your offer to the listing agent, don't get talking too much and talking about here's my offer, it's for, you know, here's the offer, I'm sending you over an offer, it's $450, and don't start saying, oh, but they'll probably pay more, and, you know, don't start giving the deal away before it's even been presented. You know, don't say, yeah, they've got to move and live with their family and this and that, you know, unless you say they're super flexible, but don't start the negotiating process when you're simply presenting the offer.
Oh, thanks.
And again, stay calm and relaxed.
In a multiple offer
Go ahead.
market, would you include a deadline, a response deadline?
Well, you can, but it's really up to the listing agent to say when the response, and that's, you're very, that is clearly, when will you be discussing this with when will you be reviewing the offers and when can I expect a response? And then
We used
usually
to.
you can't say, I want to know by noon today.
We used to do that
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
routinely.
that.
We used to do that routinely. Buyers respectfully request a written response by whatever date and time. However, with all of the multiples right now, regardless of what you put in, and others could feel differently about this, what I'm seeing is putting that in is just an automatic, like, no, we're not, we've got 22 other offers, so we're not going to abide by that. There's no teeth to that statement anyway. We don't have to. It might just be that triggering point. We used to do it to try to block multiples.
Yeah.
It's not, it's just different now. You're not going to be able to block multiple offers by putting that language in.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's where the buyer agent has lost some control in this process, where, you're really at the mercy of the seller and the listing agent. So, and that's, again, you're setting your expectations up really clearly with your buyer so that they know what the drill is. And because they will say, we want an answer today by 4. And we're going to have to say, well, you're not going to get one today by 4. And if they insist on it, then at 4, they can back out of their deal. But again, we're having good, solid consultations with our buyers, so they should understand what the market is. And the buyer agent, we just unfortunately can't do that. So you ask, when are you going to be making a decision? And that's what you do. And you just, so that preliminary discussion that you're trying to make the offer is best that the seller wants. And a buyer can only do what they can do anyways, really. Looks like I got a funny connection here. All right. So, are you guys, okay, I thought I lost you for a minute. Okay, so yeah, so basically we've presented our offer, and then really now we're going to start moving into positioning. Okay, like where are we going to, how are we going to negotiate? What are we going to do, and what are some of the tactics? Would anybody like to take a break for about 10 minutes?
Sure, yeah. Yes.
All right, why don't we do a little 10-minute break? Oops, hold on.
Great.
And then we'll be back a little bit before 10:30. How's that? We'll start talking about some of the things that you do in the negotiating. Anybody have any questions right now, though? Or do you want to wait?
Okay.
All right. Why don't we
Make
take
sure
a
you
break?
come
and I'll-
back. We're going to have cake.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. Very good. I'll see you in about 10.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Deb.
So can we play a guessing game? Is that somebody riding in an elevator or somebody in traffic?
I was trying to figure that out.
I'm telling you. I'm
Someone,
using all my pea brain power on a Tuesday morning. I'm like, is somebody on an elevator just delivering mail
sounds like
at the
somebody,
biggest market center in our company or what?
somebody's
I
caught
think
in a
it's
tornado.
wind, like through like a crack in the window.
Okay.
Oh, it sounded like somebody dragging furniture to me.
When was this?
It's probably hers.
It's going on right now. If you listen, it was at least. Maybe they muted because we've embarrassed them. I don't know.
Oh my God. That was fun though.
All right, so how's everybody doing? We excited about negotiating? Yes, no? Do people feel like you don't have a lot of negotiating power right now?
I think we always have negotiating power. It's what's different is the presentation of it in this current market.
Yeah.
I'm going to disagree, just only because this entire past weekend for buyers has been, one set of buyers willing to bring in $150,000 to the table to make whatever's needed work. And we still didn't get it with 150. I mean, think about that. The house was already well over fair market value, 22 offers, and my people are willing to bring, escalation of 40 plus 150 over, still didn't get it. It's basically working out, and this is a whole nother class worth, and Tim knows because I brought it up to our office yesterday. We're in a position where we can't and we shouldn't, but we're kind of telling our.
I'm actually in a Zoom class, but don't worry, I'm gonna step aside.
I don't know who that is. How do I do this?
We're kind of, in the back of our minds, we almost have to tell our buyers, but we shouldn't, that if you have any inspection items, forget it, you're done. 14 offers at over with 0 contingencies at all is a little tough to beat. So I hope that that's just Southern New Hampshire, but I know it's not. So I think we're all in that barrel right now. And it's hard. All the things that we have always traditionally talked to our clients about are coming undone or need to change. So it's an awkward time to be on the newer side, to not really know what to say anymore.
Right.
It's awkward for us who've been around forever. Like I'm supposed to be telling you what's happening, but also to protect you. And that's a very delicate balance right now. It's hard.
Right. Again, it goes back to that it's not the best market for everybody, but everybody's in the market because of why. Why does everybody want to buy a house?
Because the rates are so low.
Yeah, interest rates 2.5%.
So
and their employers may have said, you've been working at home for close to a year, go live where you want. And they're like, yay, New England, this is awesome. Great, let's go. Yeah, which is nice. But we don't have enough housing for people, and it's really becoming a fierce topic right now.
Absolutely. So what is the number one thing we need to do to solve this problem?
Get listings.
Get listings. And
I'm going to correct Doyle's language real quick. We have enough housing. We don't have enough listings.
Right.
Yes. And thank God for Tim. He always puts me back in place. Thank you.
Love you,
Tim.
Doyle.
Love you too.
And I do hear a lot of agents saying there's nothing on the market. There's things on the market, they just don't last. So, and this is not the class for this, but I guess it is a little with the negotiating piece. When you are working with your sellers, or actually when you're working with your buyer, I think the more we speak to the fact that the buyers are being very flexible, I think that's going to help the sellers be more open to listing their properties. And I'm starting to see a little bit of a shift. We're starting to see more listings coming on. I don't know if you guys have seen that yet, or maybe it's just because everybody's doing listing contests and everybody's making a lot of calls and that fun stuff is happening. But I do think, and we've been teaching to this and speaking to this a little bit with our sellers, Because remember, if you guys are working with buyers, unless everybody is a first-time home buyer, they may have something to sell and you're just stuck in that log jam. So you have to say, in order for you to buy, you have to have your house on the market, but let's put it out there that you need time to buy. And you can't guarantee, but in this market, it's highly likely you're going to find a buyer that's going to be flexible. So I think we need to start making sure we have that language, in our repertoire, so that we're not losing listings because the people are stuck because they don't know where they're going to go. And the more people that go, okay, as long as I have time, I'll be cool. It doesn't cost anything to list it, right? So for them, I think these kinds of conversations, I think, are going to help with this market to increase, right? So the next piece of the presentation here, we're starting to talk about positioning and moving closer to where you want to be. So let me get my screen share going. We're going to talk a little bit about, so we write up an offer, and yes, once in a while it's cash offer and no home inspection, right? And everybody's just ready to rock and roll. Hold on, but that's not always the case, guys. Yes, there are home inspections. Sellers are getting home inspections. Does anybody have any percentage right now of offers that are coming in without home inspections? Does anybody have any data on that in your market center? Yeah, I don't think anybody knows specifically. I don't think anybody's really keeping track of that. So let's move forward though in the scenario that the buyer has made their offer, and then they're going to have some is everything gravy now? We're just going to go to the closing. What happens as we move forward, right? What kind of problems come up that we've negotiated, we're going to pay top dollar, we are going to have a home inspection, we have some financing. What other opportunities are there that we may need to learn and know about negotiating as we move forward? What are some things? Because remember, you've worked really hard with these buyers. They've written up 10 different offers and they're finally getting a house, right? So we want to make sure at the end of the day, whether you're the listing agent or the buyer agent, that you are closing. So what other things do real estate agents have to negotiate?
What to do with the inspection report, maybe?
Yeah, it's kind of almost back to a little bit at the beginning. Yeah. So we had, hold on, negotiating issues. We talked about them earlier. We've negotiated the price a little. We've done some timing kind of thing. Now, as we move forward, what other things do we might need to negotiate that we talked about earlier?
Some closing costs.
Yeah, closing costs. Now, when we're writing up the offer, typically that would be in there. And what are some negotiating skills to talk about getting for your buyer closing costs? How do we do that? Any thoughts?
A home guarantee?
A home what?
A home guarantee.
Warranty?
Warranty, right. But yeah, that's a good negotiating tool. But if a buyer is asking for $5,000 in closing costs, is that an immediate, they don't get the deal? What are your thoughts on that, guys? You have a buyer and they need they're putting all their money down and they don't have any money for closing costs potentially. How do we?
We can suggest maybe the parents or someone can give them a gift.
All right, get a
Or
gift.
offering 5 above to make sure the sellers are netting the same.
Right. I think a lot of people forget that piece, and that's a very, very good point. Usually a sell, and would that be attractive to a seller? What do you think?
Yeah.
What could be a problem with that? Just maybe not 5,000, but could there be a problem with over pricing?
Oh,
Not
yes.
with all the appraisals being waived, but traditionally appraisal, yes.
Yeah, right. So yeah, closing cost, and typically that's really negotiated right in the beginning. So don't worry if, you know, oh my God, they need closing costs, they're never gonna get the deal, you know. Most sellers now are pretty aware of that's a situation, you know, and it really depends on the price point too. So that's something you work through. So what other negotiating issues? We've got our deal. We've got a deal for
Wait, I have a
$450.
question. Wait, does I have a question?
Yeah,
So if we put in an extra offer for the 5,000 to get the closing costs, the seller is gonna have to pay a little bit more in taxes.
yeah.
Possibly. So does that also get factored in? How do you handle that conversation?
Well, it's part of the conversation. You are going to be paying a little bit more on your tax stamps for sure.
Okay.
And it does net them a hair less than they thought. I would also say I won't be expecting commission on that extra 5, so that can be helpful. So, you know, those are the kind of things you need to work around. So let's say that we're going to proceed forward. So we've got price, we've got some terms, we've got the timing kind of figured out. And remember, we're going to put language in there to cover everybody if they need time or if it happens sooner. And we want to also make sure the lender is going to be on board if we have to close sooner, right? Oops. So what other negotiating things come up that we need to really learn some skills on? Anything?
Would it be the appliances in the home? Because the seller might want to keep it and the buyer will want to remain in the property? Can we do that?
No, we don't do that. No.
Okay.
I think I can't, if you could mute yourself, that would be great. Yeah, I like to stay a little bit, well, first of all, the appliances that are included on MLS are included in the property. Negotiating, what is everybody's position on household items, furniture, and appliances? Do we want to put that in offers? What do you guys think?
No.
No.
No?
I guess it would depend on the situation, wouldn't it though? Because some, like an elderly buyer would be, an elderly seller would be thrilled to leave stuff behind that they couldn't move.
Well, they're going to have it as included.
It's all included.
I mean, if that's what they want. My advice, and you can check with your own market center and people in your own group, I absolutely positively stay away from any personal property. You know, riding lawnmowers and freezers and bar stools and all of that. Before you know it, you've got a $500,000 deal on the whim of a bar stool or a TV in the basement that's 25 years old. So as you get into your skill set here with negotiating, I would try to keep all personal property out of it. Oh, we love that big sectional. We love that swing set. And we love this and we love that. The words that you want to say is, that's great. Let's get the deal together and later we'll have a conversation and see if they might be interested in leaving that furniture. Because I guarantee that furniture or that swing set is going to be a deal breaker.
Really?
Yes,
Deb, could you explain that a little bit more? You saying you'd leave it out of it. Would you leave it out of the formal offer?
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm just not clear. Okay. And then
well, buyers want to write up an offer that says we'll pay $450 to include, you know, washer, dryer, the deep freeze, the extra fridge in the bar, and the sectional or the pool table. You know, that stuff is personal property, and I don't want to be negotiating that. And if you set up
your lender doesn't want to see that on the contract.
Absolutely.
I can assure you. So.
Oh, really?
To Deb's point, Matty, go ahead. Go ahead, Matt.
No, you finish your thought, Tim. Well, I just have a question about it after.
For clarity's sake, so people remember too, that washer and dryer are personal property. So we do want to be clear about that. And to Deb's earlier point, it says, it may say in the multiple listing service that the fridge and the washer and the dryer are going to convey. If you walk in and it's a Sub-Zero, I'm going to make sure that I took a picture and I said, as viewed on June 35th, right? September 53rd, when I saw the Sub-Zero that I could fit my Buick in, I want that fridge to be the one that conveys, not a fridge like a fridge, because they could move out that Sub-Zero and they weren't trying to pull a fast one. They just said a fridge needs to be here. So we're going to leave a fridge here. And when you get there, it's their son's fridge from, UMass.
His apartment.
It still looks and
And-
smells like UMass. So.
And to the original point, I think it was Vilma who said, and it's a very good exercise, is to include that listing sheet with everything, but yeah, I think personal property drives me insane because maybe it's just because, maybe because I've been through it. Most of the time when somebody's teaching something, it's because they've been burned by it somehow or other.
Oh, yeah.
And like Tim says, they don't always mean to be mean about it. They just don't think about it. Or what happens is too, sometimes you'll have that the fridge is going to be included, and you get there and the client goes, oh, I gave that to my nephew. So now what do we do? How many people have had to buy fridges?
Yeah, you're buying appliances, which is not fun. So we just want clarity around if the brand is a concern or if they're just like, oh yeah, there'll be a fridge here. I want to clarify that language.
Right.
Oh,
If you're in love with the kitchen because of the 18 burner Wolf stove,
right?
Yeah, and the 19-foot Sub-Zero refrigerator, I want clarity around that. I want to make sure that will be the one here, not a fridge, that fridge. Her.
But I do think too, just as a point, and then we're getting a little deep here, on the purchase and sale, it does say when the walkthrough, right?
Correct.
Let's make sure we do walkthroughs. It does say that this house is in the same condition and whatever it says in there as the day of the home inspection, right? I believe that's what it says. So there are some things there, and also, and this is another whole rabbit hole, but when you do your walkthrough, don't just buzz through 10 seconds and go through it. Again, you get burned and we've all heard the story of a quick, fast walkthrough. Oh yeah, fridge, yeah, whatever. Oh, little leak there, no worries. And then the people move in and you get the call. The fridge doesn't work, the dishwasher doesn't work, the stove doesn't work, and the bathroom is leaking. And now it's on your shoulder for not doing your due diligence at that walkthrough. So that's a sort of side thing. So my advice is a best practice when you're writing up offers to save yourself a lot of headaches. Let's leave personal property off. So what other things? So what are some big things that we have to negotiate, and how do we handle it? And what are some tactics that people use?
What I'm confused about, and we'll come back to it, is how do we appropriately handle the request for the lawnmower?
Okay, so after you get through your home inspections and you've got that little time period where you're almost waiting for, your financing or something, that's when you might say, let me put a call in to the selling agent. And then you call the agent, you say, hey, my buyers are kind of interested in that riding lawnmower, and this is completely out of the real estate piece, right? And just.
Is that going to be after the inspection period? Let's say there was that inspection. So it's after we've done the 10 days of the inspection. We're having a conversation. And then is the transaction for the $100 for the lawnmower, how does that actually happen in terms of the transfer of funds?
Well, usually it's a personal check at closing. Tim, you have any comment on that, or anybody, Darren?
In Massachusetts, isn't that bill of sale? I mean, wouldn't you write up like personal property as a bill of sale? So again, I just remember from the course, they talk about it in your pre-licensing course about personal property being bill of sale.
It's just a side thing.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're looking for documented paperwork, you could have a bill of sale drawn up, I guess. If you want to make sure that it's in writing, you could ask for a bill of sale on the lawnmower, on the snow blower for
remember,
X amount
guys,
of dollars.
We're real estate agents, not lawnmower salespeople.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Again, I mean,
So
yeah. Talk to your attorney.
Try to keep that out. Try to keep out of it as
Okay,
much
great.
as possible. And, they sort of do work their way out. The guy leaves a lawnmower and he gives him $500 or whatever it is,
Okay.
Again, let's keep that out of the real estate piece. So what are real things that we have to negotiate?
How about negotiating things that should be fixed and say, as the buyer, don't worry about it, I'll fix it. So
Well,
that things
this is a fantastic direction, Karen. Thank you.
like a fence or something like that.
So we
Even a
have,
roof.
let's do a little scenario. And this is what we're going to learn about some tactics here that you'll remember as you move forward. So most of you do your preliminary negotiating regarding price and terms and all that good stuff. Furniture and all that we're putting aside. Now we're going to do a home inspection. Now we've got a couple of layers here. First thing you want to do when you have a home inspection, we want to set up expectations for both parties. Seller, there's going to be a home inspection. Take off. It's going to be 3 hours. Don't be hanging around. We don't want you there. Buyer agent, it's going to say to the buyer, now I know you fell in love with this house. The home inspector is going to have a big metal rod like a golf club, and he's going to be poking everything, and you're going to feel very nervous. You know, he's going to rain on your parade a little bit. That's normal. That's his job. So when you start to feel like that, just go, you know what, that's okay. He's doing his thing. We've all gone through, has everybody been through a home inspection? Yeah. So they're paying, you know, they can be really hard on a house, right? And depending on the level of anxiety the buyers have or the intensity of the home inspector, you don't know where it's going to go. So, but let's just say we have some basic things that come up. What come up? What things come up and how do we proceed is what we want to learn the best way to handle things. So what are typical problems on houses?
Leak in the roof.
The old leaky roof.
Expired water heater.
Yeah.
Water heaters. The water heater is at the end of its life, which pretty much every home inspection says, pretty much. What else? Hot water heaters, roofs.
The boiler.
Boilers at the end of its life. Now, was that, go ahead, who else?
The stairs in the basement don't have a banister.
Yeah.
Crack in the foundation.
Yeah, cracks in foundations. What else? What else?
Leaky basement.
Water in the basement. Roof.
Even sometimes they say termites.
Termites. Oh, possible termites.
It's got
Now remember,
electrical.
oh boy, yep, electrical, double taps. Yep.
Possible asbestos.
Asbestos, the old mold, all of it. All right, so no house can get through a home inspection unscathed. There's always something. Now, as a buyer agent, you're walking in through a house and in the basement, the boiler looks 100 years old. You should maybe make a note of that and say, hey guys, it looks like an old looks like a pretty old boiler. Obviously, you're not going to dig through the electrical panel, but you know, sometimes you can look at a panel, it looks a little rusty, you know, it's hanging, you know. So as buyer agents, let's kind of have a little handle on what's going on. And as list agents, you might want to be saying to your clients, home inspector is going to be a little nervous about some of these things. We're not home inspectors, we're not licensed contractors, we're not electricians, but we have some general knowledge of the product that we're selling, correct? So again, preparation can save a lot of work in the end, right? Even though this market is crazy, and there's 27 offers, if you take a home inspection, they're going to still negotiate. So how do we handle these things? What have you done or what you've heard people do? We have electrical panel is at its max and there's crazy wires hanging. What do we do? What do we do?
Talk to the seller.
We can ask someone to let them know about how much it's going to cost to do such a job.
Right. All right. So let's bring it right back down to the contract, right? So you in Mass, there's about a 10-day window from when you write up your contract where you have to go to purchase and sale. And in New Hampshire, isn't it the same 10 days later thing? Wherever you guys are. So we always want to be mindful of the timing. So you write up your offer. We get that home inspection in. And another best practice is to have the conversation with your buyer. You're going to recommend, look, you can't, you're not really going to go back with a grocery list of things. If there's literally a grocery list of things wrong with this house, do you want to buy it? We want to focus on safety, structure, health, those kind of things. If the wallpaper isn't any better and any worse at the home inspection, you saw the home. The kitchen it's what it is. So if you have, you want to narrow them down really to what is most important, because you want to think ahead. What does that listing agent know is going to be the problem, right? So how would we want to handle this situation? Just say the buyer really is nervous about the electrical panel. What do we do?
We notify them that there's an issue with the electrical panel, and you leverage that information with your offer and give some sort of concession or something, because it's obviously an issue. It needs to be fixed.
Okay. What else does the seller have to? Does the seller have to fix it?
No.
Yeah, the first step is to find out if there's a backup offer that they'll jump to.
You're
Possible.
in contract. You're the only one that can get out, not them. You're the buyer. You're in contract.
Right, but if they say, no, we're not fixing a thing because they know they've got 1 or 2 backups sitting there, then up to the buyer to figure out if they're willing to move into the house with all these things that they're seeing is wrong. I'm just saying, find out if there's a backup to assess whether that's a great idea or not.
Right. Yep. Would it be likely there's a backup offer?
Yep.
Yeah.
Or 2 or 3
Well,
these days.
they also might have moved on by then, by the time you do the inspection and get your report back, and it's a week or 10 days later.
Yep. Backup
Well,
offers aren't always sitting around.
Well, then you ask the listing agent, those backup offers that you've had, have any terminated that, to know whether there are presently existing backup offers, and hopefully that agent is being totally upfront and honest with it. But I'm just saying, it's a good reminder to remember that there might be somebody right there. I've got 3 people on backups right now who are just hoping something goes wrong, which is terrible to say. I don't agree with that level. You want our colleagues to have smooth, easy transactions, but on the buyer's behalf, they're like drooling, hoping something gets asked that the sellers won't do, and they get their foot in the door.
And we do, and that's good that you have backup offers. Some people have are they in writing backup offers? In writing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't count otherwise.
We lost her. Oh, it's me. They're backup. Right. So you have them in writing. Good. So a lot of people hesitate on doing that, but I think we can. Go ahead.
No, so my question is, pretend we don't have this big backup offer scenario going on. If you run into this scenario, like in a more normal time where you don't have 5 backups on standby, what would you recommend in that situation?
Right, and that's a very good point. We're speaking very much to the COVID environment that we're in, but you guys do need to learn what you do when it isn't like this. So first of all, we've set the expectations up clearly with the buyer to know that they're going to be a little disappointed about the home inspection. And then we're going to determine, I like the idea of determining if in fact there are termites, or if in fact that electrical panel really is bad. Home inspectors are well-rounded individuals, but very few of them are licensed contractors, licensed pest inspectors, licensed plumbers. There may be an occasion where you have a 10-day window to get inspections done. You may want to say, look, I'm going to have my heating person come over and look at this boiler. Let's get it handled. Is this thing going to blow up, or do we have a little time left? Right? So as part of your value in working with your buyers, you have these people in your world that can come over hopefully very quickly and check things for you and say, look, this panel's a little rough. I can probably do a couple things. We'll tweak it, and then a few years, let's upgrade it. So you want to make sure that you're looking at the big picture here, you know? So what do we want to do? So here's some tactics here. And here's some, okay, so let's talk about this electrical panel that needs to be done. So you can have, I don't know where they came up with these terms. So you have their different kind of electrical sessions. Okay, so people want, what's the best practice if you have problems that need to be corrected from a home inspection?
It'd be best.
We're negotiating now. What's the best thing to do?
The best thing to do would be to call the listing agent and try to have a nice conversation regarding what the buyer has discovered and as to the likelihood the seller might or might not want to participate in fixing any of those things.
Do we want the seller to fix things?
Not necessarily. You may want to trust your own people.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to have the seller do it. I'd want to get, because I don't think they do it up to snuff.
Not to insist, but I would prefer to bring a licensed person and assess the situation so I will know what they're getting into it and how much it's going to cost them to fix it.
Right, exactly. That's what I mean. If a home inspector brings something up, it's a flag. They're only knowledgeable about so much and they're only licensed for so much. If they see something that is a little over their skill set, they may say it's worse than it is because they really don't know. So you always want to have the opportunity to have the professional licensed person come in for an evaluation and a quote for repair.
Because they want to
the listing
protect
agent
themselves.
do that also.
They wanted to protect themselves by exaggerating the situation. So that way they don't get blamed that they didn't see or they didn't make the buyers aware of something was going on. And sometimes the buyers, because they're not prepared for this, they take it like over the moon and they think the house is going to fall down when really it just needs to be like, for example, the termites. Have somebody come and kill that section where the termites are maybe starting. It's not all over, they're just starting.
Well, exactly, and that's what we as agents need to be clear on. Is this a immediate problem, or is it the home inspector is just a little concerned and we want to have a professional in? You know, that's why within your contact, your database, and all in your business, you have to have people that can address these issues. And there's usually about 10 things that always come up at home inspections, and we named most of them. So in terms of negotiating,
Becky's got her hand raised.
Yeah, Becky's
oh,
got
I'm
her
sorry,
hand.
Becky.
That's okay. If you give yourself 10 days for a home inspection and something comes up on home inspection and now you're renegotiating the offer, does that, you still only have that 10 days or does that start to reset that window because now you're in negotiation again?
Well, I think it matters by state. In Mass, you have 10 days to get everything done. If you really can't get it done, you can ask for an extension. I think New Hampshire isn't it 5 days or something once notified? Anybody?
It's 5 days for the
It
seller
is.
to respond. Yeah.
Yep, 5 and 5.
Right. So the bottom line is good agents. We want to be extremely mindful of the timeline that you've put forth. You've put together an offer and you said, I'm going to get these things done in 10 days. So it's your job to get them done. So
Yeah.
get that home inspection done immediately. Go ahead.
Oh, excuse me, Deb, if I can interrupt. To that point, and I'm in Massachusetts, what I've done the past few transactions is contacted inspectors that I know and have said, we're putting in an offer, the reply, we expect to hear, say, by Tuesday evening. If we get it, would someone be available to do the inspection the next day? And 2 or 3 times the inspector has agreed to that. So I just put that out there. That might be helpful to some of the other agents. Yeah.
Right. You want to build very, very, very good relationships with your home inspectors, your lenders, everybody that you're working with, you want to make sure you have very, very good relationships so that, you know, people will respond to you right away. Again, a home inspector wants to make sure that they're covering themselves a little bit, not leaving anything unnoted, not noted. So what's the best way to, what are some of the best practices in terms of you need a roof, you need a roof repair, or you need something done. What is the best practice? We talked a little bit about, do we have the cellar repair? What do we think about that? What's everybody's position on having?
No.
I don't like
cellar
it.
repair, and how do we, yep.
No, I wouldn't have the cellar repair because they could, you know, oh, I'm going to do it myself. I can replace those shingles and, you know, you don't know that it was done correctly or the quality of the work or anything.
Right, so what do we do then? How do we negotiate?
You could take money off of, you know, try and, you know, do it per the sale, take money off for the homeowner, the buyer to pay for it out of their pocket, but you just take it off the sale price or, yeah, or, I mean, it depends. In the seller's market, the seller might just be like, no, I'm not doing it. So,
yeah.
I had,
Chris has his hand raised.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Chris has his hand raised there. Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that I had the situation. I sold at my house in Arizona 6 months ago, and it was a little different because I was really eager to sell it. So it was more, I wouldn't think of it in the traditional seller's market because I really just wanted to get rid of it. And what happened was it did need a roof after the inspection. And what we did, which I thought was really interesting on my real estate agent's part, was he had the buyers suggest a roofer that they wanted to work with. I paid for the roof and I got most of it reimbursed through insurance. So I thought that was really creative by the realtor, and it worked out good for everybody. I got it. They wouldn't have bought it without a new roof, and they got to choose who did the work.
That's interesting. I didn't know you can get an insurance claim on it. Did you have was there damage from something?
There was hail damage from a storm. Now the storm was like a year ago, but you know, we did our due diligence. I had to talk to the insurance company a lot, and my original, it was a $9,000 repair, and my original assessment, I got $1,700 for it. But then I like really, you know, the squeaky wheel gets grease and all that, and I ended up getting another $5,700.
Wow. Yeah, a lot of people forget that they have homeowners insurance, and it's okay to file a claim. You know, people pay for their insurance for 30 years and never. So anyways, yeah, that's good to know. So yeah, that's interesting, you know. So generally speaking, it's best to have the buyer take on the problem. First of all, we want to know the degree of the problem for sure. We want to make sure that it's real, and you know, it's not just a home inspector being a little nervous about something he's not quite knowledgeable about. How about mold? What do we do with mold? Any thoughts?
Have a mold remediation company come in.
Mm-hmm. Is that the buyer does that or the seller?
I would imagine the buyer would do it.
You know, it's interesting. Our mindset here is a little bit on, you know, we're kind of doing this as the buyer agent. Should the listing agent be doing anything on their end? Thoughts?
Usually, but I think it's because it's a seller's market that we're focusing more on the buyer doing this stuff. Usually, I think the seller would take care of this stuff.
Well, even in this market, just say go ahead.
Has it been disclosed previously, right? Do we know, like, is it first found upon inspection, or does that seller and or seller's agent, listing agent know about any of these issues prior to?
Right. When we're talking about issues that are big, if we're talking about mold, or now that it's been discovered, does that make the buyer in a little bit different leveraging position? What do you guys think about that?
I think so, because you have, if that house goes back on the market, now you have to disclose whatever was found in the home inspection, so they don't want that to happen. Sorry, I have a crying baby in the background.
That's okay.
I have a little bit on the situation on that. So when I was buying my house 4 years ago, I went and see a house that it was actually listed for like back 4 years ago was like about $150,000, which was like really cheap at that time. And it was a nice neighborhood. It was like the dream home. I went to look at it, but it had mold. So then they took it off the market and they released it again for $220,000. I knew that the house had been listed a few months prior that it had mold, right? So I went and did a home inspection, and I remember telling my agent, I was like, you know, I remember us coming and seeing this house over a year ago and it had mold. So she was like, she suggested doing the inspection. So it came out that they had listed that the house did had mold on the basement. The problem was fixed in the basement, but actually the mold had grew to the second floor of the home. So like if I would have never had done that inspection, I actually would have ended up buying a house that had mold. So that killed the deal. I mean, I was glad that I spent almost $2,000 for like the inspection.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and that's what happens when you have, and so I had asked the question, should the seller be doing anything on their end? If they have a home inspection and they hear, oh my gosh, there's an electrical problem, and oh my gosh, there's mold, should the listing agent do getting some quotes? What do you guys think?
Yes.
Maybe for
Yeah, they
something
do.
like the mold, because like now it's a material fact. Now everyone's going to know about it. Like if you don't fix it for me as a buyer, you're going to have to fix it for the next buyer, is the way that I see it. But I don't know about right now in this climate, but normally I think.
Yeah, most people will be pretty hardcore on mold.
But also,
I think it's a good.
It also depends on how extensive the mold is, because it might be just starting and it's something that it can be cured easily.
Yep. Not all mold, it's not always a horror show, and it can just be, and it can be, again, that's why as list agents or buyer agents, you want people within your system that you can call and get somebody over there immediately. The reason it might be important for a list agent to get an evaluation and a price, because the buyer may get an evaluation and a price, and they may be completely different. So as we need to negotiate this, you as a list agent want to have some information and some knowledge, and the buyer agent has, and again, it moves back into the negotiating piece, right?
I think too, one of the
As
things
to,
I'm sorry, Deb, didn't mean to cut you off there. So
no, go ahead.
now I was gonna say also too, if you're a buyer's agent, when you put the response in there saying like, look, we want these things repaired by a licensed and insured professional, and we'd like to see receipts prior to closing so that you have that in place, and just give them to the attorneys. That way everybody's covered, everybody's done their job. You don't have any hopefully outstanding items on the day that you're doing the walkthrough. So that's another way to handle that as well.
Yeah.
It also,
Yeah, because sometimes
also be nice if you can provide pictures before and after.
Well, I think the key is, like Darren says, and we have to make this has to be part of the language. But again, you have to be a little careful with a lot of repairs going on. The bank's not going to want to see that. So let's just, we have to be very careful and watch on each individual basis. But yes, sometimes the seller will be making repairs, and you have to be diligent and make sure that those repairs are done, and they're done by professionals, and that you have written receipts, because that's why it's best not to have them do repairs, because they may even have a written receipt, but it may still not have been done by a professional. Professional, are they licensed? Do they have a general contractor? Are they a supervisor contractor? There's lots of different levels of things being done. But, pardon me?
Yeah, I'm just saying sometimes too, did they pull a permit? at
Yeah,
town hall?
absolutely.
Was
I mean,
the-
houses are living, breathing things. There's
Right.
just stuff happens to them, and it's part of real estate. This is this is what we do. We problem solve, and we, you know, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that the house is what they want, and that the people are, you know, selling their house, you know, and it's going to work for everybody. But yeah, for sure. So, go ahead.
Excuse me, sorry, we got Paige has her hand up. She's
Okay, Paige. Thank you.
Just before we move on from this mold conversation, I just had a question. I know there have been laws around like lead paint and things like that, but are there any, I don't know if it's different per the state, but are there any laws regarding like selling your house if it has mold in it, or is that just something that needs to be figured out between the buyer and the seller?
Well, it's all about disclosure, I guess.
So
And
more
what the
about
lender-
disclosure than the actual like condition itself.
I mean, in Massachusetts, we're all about lead paint, you know, and we have to disclose and all of that. But I mean, if you want to sell a house with mold, you can. I don't think there's any laws against it. I mean, maybe I shouldn't say that, but
Unless the lender pulls it up, you know, from disclosures online and it is actually disclosed, and that is likely an issue.
mhm. Go ahead, Terry, you have a question?
I have a comment. I had a situation with asbestos, and the person selling wasn't comfortable having the work done to mitigate it. So we negotiated for her to pay the mitigation company directly, and it was done after she moved out, but before they moved in.
That's good.
Yeah. So
Yeah, any way we can, yeah, because some sellers are financially not really have the money to do some of these repairs, but they will when they sell. So there are ways to put that into play. And again, your attorneys can help you with a lot of that kind of language. I do think, and it would be a good exercise for you, you know, as you go through your day, if you're talking to people and they get a deal accepted, are they really never renegotiating? That didn't come out right, but you know, what is the percentage of a renegotiation after you've had an offer and there's 10 other offers? Anybody have any feedback on that? Anybody have any knowledge of anybody in the office? Yeah, I think as you're buzzing around today, I'd like you to ask agents, hey, you had an offer on that property. Was there negotiations after the home inspection? Because in my opinion, there are, we just aren't knowing it. What do you guys think? Any thoughts?
Yeah, Deb?
Yeah.
Hi, I had a recent situation. In fact, the house closed this past Friday, and we had the inspection. And what did come up were, and I'm learning some more about termites than I care to learn, but apparently they saw what they call tunnels, but I guess in the winter, the tunnels aren't active, whatever. Anyway, the buyer came back and through her agent, we asked if they had it their own inspection after the home inspection. And what they did request, apparently for, I guess it's just under $1,000, you can install a system. So we didn't alter the sell price at all, but we allowed for that and gave it back to them. And we were happy to do that. Yeah, we were happy to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Was
the
there a
other-
subsequent,
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. Go ahead, Deb. What?
did you have a termite inspector come?
They did.
They give an opinion?
Yeah, they had a term, I didn't, but the buyer's agent did. And that person determined, because they had seen, I guess in the inspection, it had come up, there was some sign of some possible termite activity. The house was built in 1910. So anyway, yeah, so that was the only thing there. And the other thing, and I just would like to run it by, I mean, those of you who might have an opinion on it. The other thing we did with this particular house, again, very strong market. We ended up having 8 strong offers over asking, But what I did, and this goes back to what you were saying earlier, Deb, about having a good relationship with some of our contractors. There's an electrician I've done a lot of work with, and I asked him to come before we even listed it, and just to kind of give me the story on the electrical. And what he determined was we had, what do they call it? Circuit breakers, but there was some active knob and tube, and also asbestos wrapped in the basement. And this, maybe you wouldn't do it in another market, but what we found it helpful, we disclosed that. And basically what I did at open houses, I disclosed this. You know, I showed them the electrical panel. I pointed out, because I had a contractor actually show me 4 different points where there was some active knob and tube. And even the asbestos, they could see it as soon as they went into the basement, but it was wrapped and it hadn't been disturbed. And I just wonder what some of you think about that. It worked well for us because just disclosing it and in this market. And so the only pushback we got was, again, this buyer and noticing that there might be some termite activity. So
Wow.
I'm just
So
curious
it
as to what
had
people think.
electrical problems, termites, and asbestos?
Well, they didn't have problems. The electrical really wasn't a problem. It wasn't, it's just that there was some active knob and tube. And I guess, is it any house built before? I think it's 1938 or something would have it. And so it was just disclosing that, because what I didn't want to have happen is somebody come back and say, hey, wait, there's not knob and tube. So yeah, and then so people knew going right into it.
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't know how what you people think about that, but I just, in this particular situation, it worked well, kind of being that transparent.
Yeah, so what does everybody think about that as a going forward, as a negotiating discussion?
Well, my current house that I bought had knob and tube, and I really wanted the house.
Yeah.
So it was an elderly lady that had been living there, and she didn't disclose it, but it was discovered in my home inspection. I told her I would fix it, so I paid like 10 grand to fix it, and then bought the house, because you can't insure the house without fixing it. Termites is a different story.
Hazard.
Yeah, you really wouldn't be able to insure the house anywhere without fixing it first.
When was the knob and tube fixed? Before you closed?
No, I bought the house, and then after, before I insured it, I fixed it. No one would insure me until I got it fixed.
Wow.
So I did it right away within the first month.
How did you close without an insurance policy?
Good question. I don't know. This is before I studied real estate a couple of years ago, so I don't know. She pulled some strings, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess the bottom line is, I think that's an interesting story. Yeah, you can certainly disclose. We've got asbestos, we've got knob and tube, we've got everything. And then the buyers can choose if they want to buy the house or not. Yes, you do come up with insurance. I don't know how. I think you got insurance. The insurance company didn't know you had knob and tube, probably. But
I think they gave me 30 days to fix it. I think
they
that's
did.
what it was. Yeah.
That's
They said you have 30 days to get it fixed.
Right. Interesting. So I guess the bottom line is every single solitary thing we talk about is up for negotiations. And the more you know, and the more you're prepared, and the more you do it, the better it is, you know, obviously. So we want to make sure that we're constantly in learning mode. Who has some questions? Looks like Vilma has a question, and I'm running early. I always run early. Do I talk too fast? Or no,
No, you're fine. Okay, I do have suggestion. I used to deal a great deal with buyers, and but just to tell you a little story before that, it was that I used to be a hairdresser, and I used to be able to spot a bad haircut from far away. So I use that knowledge to talk to my buyers, and I says, you know, because there has been other times when this has happened, that you only have one chance. And if you don't make an offer right there, you're going to lose the house. So I used to tell them, if you pay like $50 to a person that will come along with us, but this person is very knowledgeable about structure, electricity, the main things, a roof, and heating systems. Like they wouldn't exactly be able to tell you that they are an expert in every field, but at least they do have a great knowledge about it. And they will give you an honest opinion to you before you make an offer. But remember, you're going to be spending $50 every time we go to a house. But would you prefer to do that or make an offer, pay a full expansion?
So are you saying that are you saying you bring this contractor and then they're not going to do a home inspection?
Yeah,
What does everybody think about that?
Not a home inspection, but something like just to because a full home inspection, not, but because they only have like 10 or 15 minutes or half hour to view the property, but something so they can give the buyer reassurance that this property will be good and it will be standing even after they buy the property, and that it's going to be there. But they would prefer to do that, to spend that $50 and not spend on $400 and an inspection and then they find out that there's termites.
So
or there's something wrong with the or is something wrong with the structure. So they will be more reassured themselves to go ahead and make an offer.
So I just want to be, I just want to be clear. Are you bringing this person and they're going to be doing a home inspection?
Yes, I used to do that, not anymore. I haven't really worked with buyers any longer.
So what does everybody think about that strategy?
It used to work for me. I'm just throwing it right there. And
what does everybody think about that?
So you're saying bring a contractor with you at your like showing and then bring in an and still having an inspection?
No, because nowadays you cannot do that. But if you had, let's say you put now an offer and it's subject to no inspections or nothing, at least you have the word from somebody else that this property is going to be standing in there.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that nowadays people are putting in offers without inspections. It's a way to try and convince, try and get a one-up on other buyer offers. But a contractor is not an inspector. I mean, yes, it's better than nothing, but they're not trained to look at the same things inspectors are. My girlfriend's dad is a very well builder. He doesn't know what an inspector knows. And yes, it's definitely better than not having any than walking in there and not knowing a single thing about anything.
That's what I mean.
For sure. If you have someone that you know that you can bring with you that knows more, obviously that's going to be better than walking through a home that you don't know what to look for.
Right.
If you're gonna put in an offer without an inspection, but obviously an inspection is going to be your best way to do it.
Oh yeah.
And it gives you obviously the ability to renounce your offer if things
and
go wrong with the
also
inspection.
it save you to find out after you did an inspection and you did an appraisal for another $2,000 to find out that there was something with the structure. That's what I did. But like I said, I used to do that before, not now.
Right. So Jonna, you had a question. You were raising your hand.
Not a question, but a comment. If you think about it, I'm thinking about it in terms of if you're going to buy a used car and you don't know much about cars, and you bring a mechanic or you bring a friend who knows, who can point things out to you. So you're kind of doing a cursory look. And to her point, even if it's $50, you're still saving that ultimate inspection. If there's things about the house that are going to be hot spots. So I could see doing it. That's just my opinion. So I could see, it's for someone who doesn't know anything about houses, who's really cautious, I could see bringing someone along like that, even paying a little bit of money.
Looks like Angela has a question.
And it wasn't necessary.
Hi, Deb, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I actually texted you my question, but I was curious. So as far as the negotiations go, how detailed do you want to get? Like if you're offering a rent back to the sellers, you know, so how detailed do you want to get in the initial buyer forms and the offer, or is that something you add? I guess at the initial for the negotiation, is that something that happens after they accept your offer, and do you just make a generic term like contingent with seller rent back? Does that make sense?
Oh, on the rent back question?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought yeah. On the rent back question, yeah, you would write that in the offer, but that would be much more, that's a different topic a little bit, yeah, but that's more part of terms, you know,
Okay.
in terms of repairs. But yeah, I can give you some language on that. James, you had a question or you had a comment. James Fortier?
Yeah.
Did you raise your hand?
The whole having a contractor with you, yeah, it's a good thing. Like I've been in construction for years. I do have inspection background. Nothing goes over an inspection, like 100%. I can tell you my opinion, but my opinion only goes so far, whereas an inspection is literally written down. Like anything I say, you're not going to have a legal standing to negotiate anything with that house because it's only an opinion. That's the biggest
Okay.
thing that I have with that. Like, yeah, you could bring somebody with you. To the used car analogy, that's completely different because the mechanic works on a car all the time and works on all the parts of the car. As a house, it's completely different because you have electrical, plumbing, structural, and anything else that could go wrong. That if we miss that, that's a technical liability on that person because you could be like, oh, well, he told me. And it becomes that wishy-washy area where you don't want to have that additional risk bringing somebody.
Yeah, it's tough because, yeah, Darren, I was going to shoot it over to you on this. I mean, obviously, our fiduciary duty is in this scenario is to the buyer, right? And we owe them reasonable care and diligence. What else? Accountability, confidentiality, you know, all that stuff. And we have to advise them. But again, we're very focused on this particular market right now and, you know, how the buyers have lost a lot of control of their day in their civil rights. So, you know, they really can't get anything. I mean, but I don't want to say that they don't get anything. There are negotiations that are happening out there, right? They are. And that's why I wanted you guys as a little homework assignment to ask some of the other listing agents or whoever you run into. I see you just put that together in your closing. Did you renegotiate it all at all? And I guarantee you're going to hear that there has been. What do you think, Darren? Am I off track here?
No, I mean, you know, obviously it's a tough market, but you don't want your buyers just grasping at whatever the first thing comes in and giving up all rights and all protections and all contingencies. Yeah, it's good to have a contractor come in maybe the first time, take a look at it, but that should never take the place of an inspection. An inspection contingency is always important. We have, you know, homes that can around here that are sold as is, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't get an inspection. Or if you buy a foreclosure, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't get an inspection. And if your clients, you know, say absolutely not, we're not going to have an inspection, get that in writing. That's a CYA moment right there because we have an addendum in Connecticut where they actually check off every single inspection so they can see, all right, you're opting not to have these. So this is on you at this point. I always recommend it because you never know what could potentially be there. You know, they could be buying something that becomes a massive sinkhole for them, and that'd be a problem for you later on too if you don't cover yourself.
Right. It's very, very, very difficult in this market because you aren't competing. You know, other people aren't doing home inspections. All right. It's a tough one, but again, this isn't forever. This is just right now a little bit. So we do need to learn our skills about negotiating and how do we do it and what's smart and how do I cover our clients, whether we're the listing agents or how do we cover and protect our buyers. So these are the things that we it's a constant learning curve here in the real estate business. Somebody had a question here. I have an inspection question that was.
Yeah, Larry. Hi, can you hear me?
Larry?
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, what's
Yeah,
up?
yeah. On the inspection contingent, can you having a hard time hearing me?
Yeah, there's some background, but go on.
Okay, hold on. Just quickly, is on the inspection contingency, when you put in an amount, say for $10,000, as kind of a buffer, that as long as there isn't enough damage in there, if you exceed the $10,000 amount, is that the threshold? I have a seller agent that was under the impression that, say if there's $12,000 worth of damage, that's really, they're only on the hook for 2,000 of it because you put that buffer, where I was under the impression that it resets it, that it's down to zero, and that whatever that damage is, we want to go through and understand what the value is, because we found that the inspection found over $10,000 worth of damage.
Right, and does the buyer just back out?
Well, it's up to them. It's up to the buyer. And when our buyer ended up staying with it, and they ended up giving us some money, seller credit. But I was shocked that this was a 19-year veteran real estate agent convinced that that's a $10,000 basically buffer, that it didn't reset, that it was a, as long as the damage isn't over 10,000, whatever it is, the amount is, they weren't going to be able to be on the hook for that additional amount that,
So just so that I'm 100% clear, so the offer was made and it says, we'll do a home inspection, but we're not going to complain unless it's over 10,000. Is that correct?
Correct. And we found over $10,000 worth of.
So you had an opportunity to say to them, look, it's up to 12. So we're either going to renegotiate or we're going to withdraw our offer, correct?
Correct.
Right. So what's the question?
Well, the question was, they were under the impression, well, if it's over 10,000, say it was 12,000, that they would give like a $2,000 credit, and that would be sufficient, because we're basically saying as long as it's whatever that value is. But is that the truth? Is that the meaning of that statement?
When you say they thought, are you saying
The seller,
buyer?
the seller. I'm representing the buyer, and the seller's agent is under the impression that regardless of the inspection, it's got to be $10,000. So don't talk to me unless it's over 10,000, and then whatever that is, we're deducting 10,000 from whatever the repairs would be, as opposed to saying, okay, we found the kicker being over 10,000. Now let's negotiate from zero. Basically, we're walking in and saying, okay, to be able to do that. How do you interpret
I
that?
think, I don't know what you guys think, but are you asking that we're going to renegotiate the whole thing?
How do you interpret that $10,000? Go ahead.
There's two things. Yeah, it's a wording issue. First of all, it's, in my opinion, you're making the offer that says, I am not going to complain unless it's over 10 grand.
Yep.
Right? Or I'm going to back out.
Right.
So the seller is going to go, all right, I'll pick up. And the seller does not have to do that.
All right.
They can say, I'm not doing anything.
Right.
You can either come or go.
Right.
But it sounds like two win-win agents said, look, why don't we just try to figure out something on the 2? But I don't believe that 10 is up for grabs. What does everybody else think?
I've never heard of that before. That's a new one on me. So
Yeah, we are seeing
it could be any amount. Say it's 2,005. But we just happen to put an arbitrary 10,000. But how do you interpret that dollar amount? What does that mean?
The way I am hearing it is, it would be anything over the 10. So if it was 12, it would be 2. But
do you think, Matt, that seller is obligated to pay for
No.
those repairs?
No, they don't.
no, I think that just becomes a negotiable item. But
my position is it creates a better, it allows it, I think it's good language, but you want to make sure you have it really clear, because it's going to allow you to potentially get a deal over somebody who does not have that language in. We have 5 offers. Everybody has a home inspection because maybe the house is rough. But if you say, I won't back out unless it's over 5,000, that could be just the negotiating point to get you in. And then, yeah, if the house is really falling apart, then you have your home inspection contingency in which you withdraw. So yeah, it's a wording, it's a negotiating thing. And again, talk to your TLs and your OPs and make sure your language is correct. But yeah, that's what that is something that we are seeing. As you know, it's at another level. And for a list agent, they may say, you know what, I think you're going to be okay. I don't think this, I don't know. You don't know. You can always find $12,000 in a house pretty much if you really wanted to. So what does everybody think about that piece? Is it something worth thinking about in terms of your offers in this crazy market?
Well, in this case, it helped us get the deal because she said that because we put that amount in, that it put us over the top. That they felt like we weren't going to nickel and dime them, that it was, we're not coming after you unless it's a serious structural problem. In this case, it was a foundation issue. And again, I mean, I've got another house, you can do $100,000 in foundation issues with some of these. So 10 grand is nothing, you know, that's an easy one.
So let's talk about this little scenario. What about offers that come in with home inspection for informational purposes only? What's everybody think about that one? What's the short answer?
It's not sufficient language. It needs to have a finished piece to it.
If somebody says, here's an offer for $450, I have a 10-day window to do a home inspection, but it's for informational purposes only. What does that?
It sounds great, but your buyers need to understand that there's no specific language about going to the seller for anything if they're unhappy. There's no tie-in to creating any obligation on the seller if there is something found. So I just want to know if there's something wrong and I'll deal with it later. Or, hey, because a lot of people do this. Hey, we found out that there are these 3 things wrong and now we want you to fix it. And the seller's going to come back saying, it says for your information only. So your buyers need to know what that truly means and to make that a longer sentence with some teeth to it.
What does everybody else think on that one?
Yeah, I agree with what Sue just said. It kind of null and voids your negotiation on a buyer side to come back after that inspection. I mean, you still have the opportunity. I would assume you still have the opportunity to redact your contract if you decide that the inspection didn't go your way. But as far as going to someone being like, "Oh, we noticed this in our inspection, and we want X amount of dollars back," or "We want to negotiate this," well, your contract says this was for.
Right, but what if it's what if it's mold? What if it's a big disclosure issue?
Well, if you're a savvy seller, then you should put in that that maybe, you know, if the buyer reneges on that, then they lose their deposit.
Why would a seller even allow in that kind of inspection afterwards?
And it's like a tear down or it's something like that.
So the bottom line is a home inspection for informational purposes only is still a home inspection. It's still a home inspection, no matter how you write it up, and no matter how pretty it looks, they're doing a home inspection on the property. So be careful with that because the buyers still are going to come back with, I want this done or I want that done. Now, yeah, we've got a lot of buyers hanging around and all of that, but the next buyer is going to find it too. So be careful with some of those things. Learn as much as you can, listen to as many agents as you can, and ask as many questions as you can when you're working on deals, because every deal is different. And again, every word matters. We had a rush of this whole home inspection only thing all the time, and they were just doing home inspections and everything was being renegotiated. So it got watered down, and it really turned out, either you want a home inspection or you don't want one. And that's kind of where it went. So Michelle, you have a question.
I do.
in regards to what we're talking about right now, so when people are putting on the PNS that they're doing this home inspection for informational purposes, no matter what, if I'm understanding everything correctly, the buyer is still protected and has that contingency to get out of the purchase and sales, because no matter what purpose they're saying this home inspection's for, in this case it'd be informational, they still are asking for a home inspection that would still allow them out of the contract.
Yes, yes. If you agree as a seller to a home inspection, they have the opportunity to back out based on the home inspection, no matter what they said.
Are
Would
you
everybody
entitled-
agree?
Sorry, are you entitled as a seller to deny a home inspection?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, you can negotiate that your offer is submitted with doing home inspections. It could be countered with, we'll take your offer with no inspections.
Yeah,
It's a
you could
negotiable
counter
item.
like that. Price and terms.
And you need to be aware, and this is what I was mentioning earlier. It's a hard time as agents right now because for the most part, you can pretty much assume that there are going to be offers in there with 0 home inspections. So you're competing right from the get-go.
Right.
Deb?
Yes.
Hi, excuse me, jumping over to the seller side, how important do most of you feel for us to write to be sold as is? And does that help kind of ease the whole pushback from any prospective buyer as far as, coming back after an inspection? What are your thoughts on that?
I think we can mastermind on this for a bit before we wrap up. It's a word issue. What does everybody else think about that as is? If you're a listing agent, you're selling it as is. What is that? What are you saying?
Kind of just saying like, you're aware there's some problems, this is what it is, but we're listing it appropriately based on the fact that we see that this stuff is as is. But as the other person on the other side, you don't know what the as is really means and how what the worst case scenario is of what the findings are.
Do you think it stops buyers from asking for things?
No. Not at all.
It just looks pretty. Or it makes us, it's all about contracts and what's written in the contract. So I think a lot of people do put that out there, particularly if they have somebody who's sort of, they know financially they can't make any repairs or just physically can't do anything. Sometimes you can put as is and people almost put 2 and 2 together there. But at the end of the day, it's all about the contract and what you find in the home inspection. Then you can even get going forward into further things later that you might have to negotiate. Will be tomorrow's class. It's really doing the financial basics. Then you get into the appraisal issues. Way back when somebody said that there was no railing going down, I think it was Matt, going down the basement. Again, some of these repairs can be issues with the lenders, particularly if you're doing FHA or VA and those kind of things. So you always want to be a little mindful of that. Somebody has raised their hand. Hane, is it? Han?
Yes, I'm Hannah from Worcester, Massachusetts.
Okay.
I just want to ask you if you want, what is the difference between VA inspection and the normal inspection?
Okay.
Because I heard that the VA is more restrictive and doesn't approve any house, and I just want to have the experiences if you have. Thank you.
Okay, so that's something that I can speak to that a little bit, and some of the experienced agents could speak to it. So the VA and the FHA have, higher expectations for houses, so to speak, and they have different guidelines that they follow in terms of the safety and the condition of the property. So there are, if you have a buyer that is working with an FHA loan or a VA loan, if there are some structural or cosmetic or safety issues on the property, it will be flagged with the appraiser. It's not an inspection, it's an appraisal. So as a listing agent or a buyer agent, you want to keep that in mind. And it's not always bad. I mean, unless the house is really bad, you want to find that out from the listing agent if they think that the house is so bad that it won't pass a VA or FHA inspection. Most of the time it's safety things and paint peeling, because the theory is if an FHA buyer, is buying a property with low money down, that means the bank has so much more into it. The theory is the new homeowner may not have any money to make these repairs. Therefore, they're not going to be keeping up with the value of the property. So I would be, make sure you're having good conversations with your lenders in terms of VA and FHA, so that you understand what they're looking for and you really have good knowledge. If you have a buyer and they're an FHA loan and you go to a house at the broken windows and the paint's peeling and there's no railings, it's likely it's going to be a problem. That doesn't mean that the seller can't fix it and put a railing in or paint the back of the house, but if it's in really disrepair, you'll have to watch that piece.
Are they still doing those more in-depth appraisals with COVID? I know other lenders, more traditional banks are just kind of doing desktop appraisals and looking at comps in the exterior.
I think the FHA, I think they do a little bit of a drive. I don't know exactly. I think they're doing a little hybrid, but with FHA, if it's really, I think they start on the outside. If it's really bad, they're going to take it to the next level because they have their guidelines that they have to meet.
Right. I would also encourage anybody to sit with your lender, a really good lender, and talk about, and if Lindsay's still on here, he's going to be like, oh, don't get Sue going with VA. I do a lot of VA. It is a system in place to help those who have served and protected our country and ourselves. Don't listen to other agents who haven't done many and really want to tell the world that it's a terrible program. It's not. You have to understand it, and you have to be prepared for, like you said, it could be a couple of things. Is it an hour of painting? Is it $150 handrail? Okay, big deal. You're going to have to fix it anyway. So I would recommend, especially if you're a new agent, have not done VA and don't understand it, don't listen to the agents who are telling you it's a terrible product, because you passing that along to the sellers and those sellers pass it along to their two friends, and that whole scenario creates what is out there as don't look at a VA. Right. So don't help a retired military or first responder or whoever get into a house. Is just not how it's supposed to work.
Exactly. So the more knowledge we have, the better, right?
All right. So, because I am personally, my husband is VA and we want to buy a house, and every time when we went to home, he said the VA will not approve this because like something small, like if it is not just updates, if it is the need remodeling, he said, no, the VA will not approve it. So we are ending not buying inside now after 6 months looking. And I just want to convince him, just have a courage and trust in yourself and confidence. Just put out an offer and let's see what will happen.
And you know what you can do is bring your lender with you. If you have a really good lender, they will offer to come with you to some of these houses and point out what might be an issue. It's not the decor, it's not the cosmetics, it's the, like we've talked about, the peeling paint, does the heat work, does the, they're going to want a water test. Get a lender on board that would be willing to come with you and go check out this property and have a summation of what could be an issue or what isn't an issue.
And what might be interesting, are you acting as the agent for yourself and your husband?
Yeah.
So no kidding around though. Sometimes that's hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You might ask somebody in your market center to, because it's hard to buy your own. Sometimes it is hard to buy your own home. And if you had an agent in your office that did a lot of VA or just, maybe knows a little bit more, it doesn't hurt to have somebody like in the middle to help you. So you're just, you guys buying, and this other person is doing the business part of it, because might be hard to do it all. for you. So I would reach out to your market center and find somebody that might act as your buyer agent. And I'm sure you could work some referral thing or something out. I've never seen a market center where somebody didn't help somebody buy a house for them. Yeah,
we did ask them, and they say the VA loan for this market is like not strong enough.
And you're in Worcester. Where are you from, Sue?
Yeah, we are in Worcester. Yeah, we are in Worcester.
And nobody wanted to help.
Like they say, because we went this orientation for the difference between everything, and he is already the team leader confirmed that the VA are, because it is longer, more particular, and so the seller doesn't interest in the VA buyers like that. So
I would do anything you can to promote the opposite, or have that listing agent give somebody who does a lot of VA, or the lender, somebody who can put some perspective, because there's just too many people out there who have listened to people who don't understand the product itself and have put a label on it. I have never had a VA loan fail. Same timeline. Yes, maybe there's a couple of little things that need to be touched up. I know I shouldn't say this. If Lindsay is still on here, it'll be like, Doyle, be quiet. Yeah, I go out and I fix a bunch of stuff when, before a VA appraiser comes out. Is it, am I putting furnaces in? Nope. A lot of times it's super minor stuff for like a couple $100. So until we can get every agent out there fully knowledgeable about VA, I have some builders and investors who absolutely, when the people, it's ready to sell it and they're coming in with VA, I've taught them, I've learned it, and we've had absolutely amazing transactions with, people who have been over on 6 tours in Iraq or wherever. Landing those people in a house is incredibly important. So again,
I'm going to challenge her to find a local lender in her area. That's going to help her.
Absolutely.
Our lender is not here because he want to use USAA.
Yeah,
So,
go to a local.
Right.
Okay.
All right, guys. So that's interesting, and I'm frustrated for you, but you have to be your own advocate. Let's get you into a place. I would find somebody in your market center that would help you. I don't know if you're getting a lot of bad vibe over there, but I would advocate for yourself, and let's make sure we get you a house. Everybody, no problem. You can buy a house with VA. Don't let anybody say you can't.
Because we find the perfect home. Doesn't need so much work and it is perfect, but he feels so much unconfident, especially when we find so much people in the open house. Maybe 20 people or like that. So
absolutely positively, you need to find a local lender that's going to help you with this VA and have a strategy session with that lender, yourself and your husband, and you'll get there. So guys, what do we learn today? Tell me some ahas. Did we learn anything? In fact, we did a lot of chatting. But what do we learn? What are we doing with negotiating? What do we do when we have an offer?
Before we get there, I think Terry actually had had a question.
Terry,
I think Sue answered it. I was wondering if the VA took longer for any reason.
I've not had it take longer ever. Okay. Standard time frame as any other, except for cash. But
all right, guys, what do you got for questions? Any ahas? Do you have any change of your thinking?
Make sure you're asking the questions and controlling that conversation.
Yep. Do you feel anything differently about negotiating?
One thing that I kind of took away from this that I wasn't really realizing before is usually you always hear about when people are negotiating the contracts and the buyer's like, oh, this, and this is wrong. I want the seller to fix it. It usually seems to be that it always ends up on the seller's lap, but from what I hear from conversations. So it was interesting to hear that it doesn't have to be the seller that fixes the problem and saves the day. Like the buyer is just as capable of doing that to move up the transaction along so that everybody can get what they want.
Yeah, and contractually speaking, you can do that. And the most effective way is some sort of credit at closing. That way that they have their cash now, that they can go and get some things done. So yeah, I think that's important to realize. That's why all of these things are good. Cumulatively, by the time you're done with Ignite, you'll have like a ton more information. So you're going to change your behaviors as you go forward. What actions will you take?
I liked your point about asking very open-ended questions instead of just yes and no, because you get a lot more out of that and more of the intentions of the person versus just like, yes, I want to sell my house in 30 days. It's like, well, I want to sell my house in 30 days because, and
why?
The why can help you sometimes more than just the yes or no answer.
Right, I agree. Anybody else on that? Like, what behaviors are you going to do differently?
I liked how all of you and Sue and Deb and everything with the questions coming to specifically from the buyer agent to the listing agent, that you find that balance of what's appropriate at the time, maybe prior to putting in your offer, and then after the offer, and not kind of just overwhelming them with a whole bunch of questions that probably don't need to be asked at that moment. I think that was kind of good to hear, because being a newer agent, you know, you think you're going to ask all these questions and then the listing agent maybe on the other side is like, oh, okay, don't want to work with her again. So I liked that kind of balance to come forward. So thank you for that.
I like to have a written disclosure from the buyer that they will waive the inspection. I didn't know that before, and I am now more careful about the words from what I say and what I hear from the others to have clear language.
Did we lose Deb?
Did we lose Deb? Deb had a hard stop at 11:58. I'm not really sure. Anyway, maybe she'll come back on. We're not really sure. I want to thank everybody for their time today. Of course, Darren for keeping an eye on the chat for us today. Deb for leading the conversation. We are back here tomorrow at 8:59. We do have the one and only Matthew Erdman, our regional operating principal, is going to be leading the conversation around financial basics tomorrow. And then on Thursday, we are doing contract to close with Susan Kenyon. And then we're going to do some additional materials on Friday to sort of put a bow on this. So have a great week, guys. Have a great day. And we'll see you back here tomorrow. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah.